Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight, returning to the show after almost 3 years, is my good friend Gavin L Davies. He's the author of This Most Haunted House. We've had him on to talk about his other really well-known book is Ghost Sex, The Violation. And now he has a new book coming out. I hope I get this right. We were trying not to... he was trying to teach me before the show how to butcher it. Is the Haunted Horror of Haverford West. I did butcher it. It's kind of like... what I'm reading from it, kind of like a sequel to The Most Haunted House and his paranormal experiences. I might be wrong about that, Gavin. I forgot to talk about that before the show. But we get that. Also, he has a new The Paranormal Chronicles e-magazine. Check that out. It is awesome. 125 pages of pure brilliance. If you're into the paranormal, you're into these interesting subjects like the World Wide Web of Weird, there's a lot of good stuff. It just had its first issue come out, so check that out. It's free. Go check it out. We'll talk about that more tonight. And of course, every Sunday night we do have the World Wide Web of Weird, and we got some interesting stuff. Gavin will be here to join us on the World Wide Web of Weird. That will be fun. And always we will have the phone lines open up later in the show. Probably, we'll open them up in a little while. We'll let you know. But you can call in. Tell us about your paranormal experience tonight. Have you had a ghost sex violation? I'm sure we might get some of those, but that's not all we're going to talk about tonight, guys. It was a very popular subject the last time we had him on, though, I will say. All right, guys, let's get rolling into the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, Gavin L Davies, is with us, joining us on the webcam as well on Google Hangouts, which always is nice to have a guest on there. How you doing tonight, Gavin?
Hello, Jason. Hello, everyone out there. Hope you are all well. It is 4 a.m. here in Wales, and I am house sitting a very haunted house. So during the show, keep an eye out what's going on behind
We already had something before the show. We're on the show and like the whole desk collapsed while we're talking. Coffee and stuff everywhere.
About attachment, yeah. We're very lucky to be here because last time I tried to come on the show, there was a tremendous storm and we couldn't do it at the last minute. So keep an eye out behind me, folks. But we're going to have a heck of a show tonight. We're going to talk about the most haunted house in Haverfordwest. You did a really good job, really, really good job on that. And we'll talk about ghost sex violation because last time I came on the show, we broke all kinds of records.
Yes, we did.
Everyone watched that show.
It was still my most viewed show on YouTube, and I will say I put ghost sex violation in that title. Probably had a little bit to do with.
Controversy creates cash.
Yeah, it's true. People people like that stuff. But man, it's some scary stuff. We'll get into it tonight. And of course, my beautiful co-host Jamie D is joining us. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing great. Excited about tonight.
Of course. And all the way from St. Augustine, Florida, Rob Autry himself. How you doing tonight, Rob?
I'm doing pretty good. A lot better than I was last week.
Yes. Well, that was Thanksgiving. I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. I work retail, so that just tells you everything you need to know about my Thanksgiving. But I have a great family, so I had fun with them.
I had the flu for Thanksgiving, so
I got it right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you did.
Last year I had it on Thanksgiving and had to work. There's no calling off when you work retail on Black Friday. I'll tell you that. All right, guys, let's do what we do every Sunday night: is the World Wide Web of Weird. Weird, right? Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, we're going to talk about definitely one of the most viral stories right now. Strange seismic waves were picked up circling the globe on November 11th. Now seismologists are trying to figure out why, and this scares the heck out of me. These stories like this where they don't know why the Earth suddenly rang like a bell. Well, we all should find out why. We should find out why really quick. All right, for those listening on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, we are a webcast as well. You can watch us at Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where you can watch and see we have videos or pictures. Tonight, mostly is a lot of articles and narration, so you can listen just fine. But you've always want to go back for seconds to see anything play. We do have one good UFO video we're going to play tonight. So let's get started with this. This one concerns me a little. Is strange seismic waves were picked up circling the globe on November 11th. Now seismologists are trying to figure out why. This comes from news.com.au. Seismic sensors first picked up the event originating near the island between Madagascar and Africa. Then alarm bells started ringing as far away as Chile, New Zealand, and Canada. Hawaii is almost exactly on the other side of the planet, also picked up the event. Nobody knows what it is. Meteorites, submarine volcanoes, nuclear test. I know recently they talked about the Trump administration giving authorization to the military to test out some kind of seismic testing device or whatever the military wants to do again. And didn't we just have a bunch of whales turn up dead somewhere? I just saw like a ton, like 200 whales turn up dead somewhere. Things aren't good. I don't think I've seen anything like it. It says the article. National Geographic reports Columbia University seismologist Goran Ekstrom, I'm sure I butchered that, is saying it does not mean that in the end the cause of them is that exotic. At the center of the mystery is the tiny island of Mayotte, positioned about halfway between Africa and Madagascar. It's been subjugated to a swarm of earthquakes since May. Most have been minor, but the biggest on May 8th was the largest in the island's recorded history, topping magnitude 5.8. Ekstrom, who specializes in unusual earthquakes, points out much about the November 11th event as weird. It was as though this planet rang like a bell, maintaining a low-frequency monotone as it spread. Earthquakes, by their very nature, usually register as a short, sharp cracks as tensions in the earth crust suddenly release pulses of clearly identifiable seismic waves radiate outwards from the slipping occurring. The first signal is called primary wave. We won't get into all the technical stuff. But this concerns me. Anything to make yourselves worried is why is our planet ringing like a bell, and they don't know why. That's the last thing you want to hear from a seismologist. I don't know why I did it. No, I all that years of education, you better come up with a reason, man. Don't freak out people. Like, we don't know why the earth is ringing a bell. And then we had the earthquake in Anchorage. I worry about my friends out in California, Jamie, when they start talking about these things. I mean, they keep telling us California's going to drop off,
We're overdue.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be out in the middle of the ocean.
At least you don't live in Florida.
Yeah, man. I got my own problems. I live in Indiana, so.
That's
okay,
true.
Let's move on. Number 2, CBSNews.com. This one just angers me so much when I saw this. CBS News, here you go. Controversial spraying methods, fake news, people. Controversial spraying methods aims to curb global warming. From New York, a fleet of 100 planes making 4,000 worldwide missions per year could help save the world from climate change. It also may be relatively cheap. That's a conclusion of a new peer-reviewed study in environmental research letters. It's a stuff of science fiction, really. Planes spraying tiny sulfate particles into lower atmosphere around 60,000 feet. The idea is to help shield the Earth from just enough sunlight to help keep its temperatures low. The researchers examined how practical and costly a hypothetical solar geoengineering project would be beginning 15 years from now. The aim would be to half the temperature increase by heat trapping greenhouse gases. The method would mimic what large volcanoes do. In 1991, Mount Pinatubo erupted in the Philippines, and it was the second largest eruption in the 20th century, according to the United States Geological Survey. My problem is they've been doing this already. I am very confident that they've been doing this already. I've looked up in the sky and been very confident that they're doing this already. People are like, chemtrails. Thank you. This is. It's like they're coming out like, oh yeah, we should try to do this. We've been doing it. this has been going on, and people have been reporting this since at least I know in the early 90s when I first started realizing it. I'm sure it goes back further, but I mean, it's been happening, people. And they're just coming out about it now. This is how we all just get it shot down the pipeline. Oh, we need to test this. You've been testing it.
I think that's why we're having the bee problem and things too.
We're having some kind of problem. Whatever it is, no, you cannot go spraying your stuff into the sky. I don't trust you. Whoever you are, government, science, whatever, I don't trust you. Sounded like a good idea at the time. Well, I think you guys don't wait to ask permission. I think you've been doing it, and now you want to get some legitimacy so you could do it even more. That's what I think. Like, we need to up the ante and spray a lot more. Well, people might notice eventually. No, they don't have to worry about that.
They won't believe it.
Yeah, they really have to worry about it. Most people are looking down at their phones, but
exactly.
Yeah, I think it's
problem.
Even. Yeah, so you don't hear much about chemtrails anymore. Nobody cares. All right, let's move on. All right, even more in the realms of science. Unexplainedmysteries.com. World's first genetically edible. No, not edible. Edited. That story. Edible babies. World's first genetically edited babies born.
Belly.
How one word can change a story. Okay. According to reports, HIV positive woman in China has, and this is what's good about this. Science can be bad, but this is a good thing. According to reports, an HIV positive woman in China has given birth to 2 baby girls who had undergone gene editing in an effort to prevent them from contracting the disease. The experiment, which involved using CRISPR gene editing technique, has yet to be independently verified and has been universally condemned by doctors and scientists. The team responsible, which was led by I'm not going to try it, a guy in Asia, Southern University of Science. I'm not trying this name. And Technology of China in Shenzhen attempted to disable the gene CCR5, which I wouldn't know what that means, which is responsible for producing a certain protein that HIV binds to when it affects someone. Volunteers were found for the experiment by offering HIV-positive couples free IVF treatment in exchange for participation in what was described as an AIDS vaccine development program. It remains unclear whether this method has actually made the 2 babies immune to the disease. If it's true, the experiment exposes healthy, normal children to the risk of gene editing for no real necessary benefit. Well, there was a benefit there. There was a person who has HIV able to have a baby that doesn't have HIV. Hopefully, if the tests turn out. So I got to pick a little beef with the people criticizing it. I understand. I guess there's a little mad scientist in me that does love the scary science stuff. I have to admit, but I know it's bad. But in this case, there should be limits and there should be protocols. But I mean, there are good things, and helping somebody have a baby who couldn't because of this condition, that could be a good thing. So let's not all freak out. When they start editing,
we need to embrace it, Jason, because if it's not the United States or Europe doing this, it's going to be a country that hasn't got the laws we have, like China or India or Pakistan or even Russia. And they're going to just do it. They're going to do it.
Once the genie's out of the bottle, that's it.
It's out of the bottle, and, we've got to start looking at this as a realistic way, a method of curing things like AIDS. Those children were born with AIDS and they've been cured of AIDS from genetic editing. And that's a great thing because those children can now grow up to have a healthy life in China.
But it makes a good scare article. Because it is scary. Yeah. I mean, they could make edited babies.
That would solve a lot of problems with world hunger, but I don't think it'd be very popular.
Oh, I'm hungry, honey. Let's put something in the oven. I know, it goes so bad. One word can change an article. Okay, let's move on. All right, this one comes from another one from Unexplained Mysteries. I picked these because they're short, the way they write them. Russian mission will verify U.S. moon landings. I found this article interesting. The head of Roscom, Dmitry Rogozin, I'm sure I butchered that, has jokingly talked about debunking the Apollo conspiracy theories. While the NASA and SpaceX have been making plans to land humans on the moon and Mars, Russia's space agency has been making similar plans of its own. Chief among these are proposals for a permanent presence on the moon, beginning with a robotic lander in 2020 and the first manned mission to the lunar surface in 2030. There could, however, be another reason why Russia wants to go to the moon, and it's still to do with the rivalry between its United States with it and the United States during the original space race from the 50s to the 1970s. During a recent question and answer session, Roscom's head Dmitry Rogozin made rather tongue-in-cheek remark in reply to a question from someone asking whether or not he believed the United States actually did land on the moon back in 1969. We have set the objective to fly and verify whether they have... let's see, I wrote this. Whether they've been there or not, he said. While the exchange may have simply been a lighthearted joke, there's no denying that the conspiracy theories surrounding Apollo landings have been rife for Russia for decades. You know they want to believe it. Would it be like, they never landed? I'm still one of those people. I believe we landed on the moon. Now, I believe we landed on the moon and found something there, and we've covered it up, and there's a reason why we haven't gone back. I believe we went to the moon. I don't know. But I can see why people question it. I
just don't think we went there at the time we first went there.
That's also a possibility. It is also a possibility. But I really do think we went to the moon.
Yeah.
We might have faked it later because we really couldn't go back because the aliens told us not to.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
We haven't been back.
I'm with you on this one, Rob. I don't think we went in 1969. I think we went later.
Yeah,
that's a good possibility. Either way,
I
think we went.
I think they went. They had to go. It was, an exercise to bankrupt the former, Soviet Union, the USSR. But what the great thing about this is that this could launch the space race all over again. And so I can just see this as a positive. If the Russians are getting more involved in space and space exploration and they go into the moon, then hopefully
I'd love it.
A lot more. Yeah, because we did loads and then we did very little, but now we're doing lots again.
And I grew up, I was a kid in kindergarten when the Challenger exploded, and you can ask my mom, I was obsessed with space shuttles and astronauts, and I wanted to be an astronaut, and I felt like I watched the whole space race die that day. It just seemed like, we've never really done anything special in space. It's all been a crap show. And, I'd love to see a space race. I'd love to see the competition happen. And, we got big egos in both these offices, the Russia and the United States, that want to prove something, I'm sure. So, hey, let's go for a space race. Now, about what I worry is space weapons in space. That's the next worry. Something to take that home and put that in your bonnet and think about that. That's what I'm worried about. That's going to land.
You've got a space force, haven't you? Donald Trump has commissioned.
We've had a space force. That's the thing. We've had a space force.
He's just allowing it to be known. And, we're talking about those seismic events and there's sounds in space and vibrations in the sky. And some people have thought it's the rapture and people are recording things that sound like bells and ringing and all these strange sounds. And it's probably some kind of military experiment that's being covered up. There's all these videos of things flying around in our atmosphere and lasers coming from the ground.
My favorite one is the UFO that heads towards the atmosphere and then you see something shoot up at the UFO and spike up. Yeah, of course, man. I mean, that's one of my favorites. All right, let's move on, though. All right, so this one comes from BBC.com. A Moroccan woman in UAE killed lover and cooked him. Now, I know this story was viral quite a bit, and we're 2 weeks behind because, of course, of the holidays. But I still had to bring this up. I'm sorry I had to. Moroccan woman has been accused of killing her lover and serving up his remains to Pakistani workers in the United Arab Emirates. Prosecutors say the woman killed her boyfriend 3 months ago, they say, but the crime was only recently discovered when a human tooth was found inside her blender. She confessed to police, calling it a moment of insanity. A state-owned newspaper, The National reports. The woman, who was in her 30s, will go on trial pending an investigation. She has been in a relationship with her victim for 7 years, according to The National. She killed him after he told her he was planning to marry someone else from Morocco. Bad idea, dude. I guess you had picked a crazy one. While police do not reveal how he was killed, they said the girlfriend has been served up his remains as a part of a traditional rice and meat dish to some Pakistani nationals working nearby. The discovery was only made when the victim's brother went looking for him at their home in the city of Al Ain, which sits on the border of Oman. There he found a human tooth inside the blender, the newspaper reports. The man went on to report that his brother missing to police, who carried out DNA tests on the tooth and confirmed it belonged to the victim. According to police, the woman first told the brother she had kicked the victim out of her home, but the Dubai-based Gulf News said she later collapsed amid the killing under police questioning. Woo! Man, imagine you're
it tasted like chicken.
Oh, you had to. You had to.
At least it was rice and it wasn't fava beans and a nice Chianti.
I should have had that sound clip ready.
Yep.
Right? Oh, my God. I mean, imagine the poor people that are like, when did she cook that up? When was that? The poor people that ate that. I mean, Oh my God, there's no like washing that off or washing that out. Or I mean, there had been some simultaneous cooking.
You don't know what you're eating anyway.
Oh,
Like when
Jeff.
you go to the supermarket or a restaurant and you're having a dinner, you don't know for sure what you're eating. All of us could already have eaten someone. We've already discussed edible babies.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a whole conspiracy and everything about them, like how many different ways they're feeding us human. Soylent Green. Yes, Soylent Green. And how they're doing that in some satanic ritual to make us all eat ourselves. Yeah, that's a lovely thought. I mean, how many times have you seen McDonald's burgers are found to have human DNA inside them? I mean, World Daily News Report.
You smell somebody with a sunburn, you start to get hungry, and you don't know why.
All right, we're getting behind. Let's go to Disclose TV. Let's go to the next one. This is a UFO video, real quick. This is a large UFO caught by a network in KTLA-5 during coverage of campfires that's happening in California. Like I said, this was from November 19th. We're running behind, but I wanted to show this. And it might be hard for people to see. You can find this from disclosetv.com, and these videos are up on YouTube. Unknown object during the fire. It might be hard to see, and there's going to be a zoom-in moment, but it's like a cigar shape. It would have to be massive. It's definitely behind where the clouds are. It would have to be a massive ship if it is. You can see it back there. Maybe you can. I can see it on the screen. Jeff's kind of pointing to it with the arrow there. It's way back there, and it just kind of floats on by, and it looks huge. I don't know. It's pretty interesting. Not much in the article about it, but I wanted people to see it. I know. There's a zoom in of it. You can definitely see it's like behind the clouds, way back there.
Oh, yeah.
It's got to be big. It's got to be pretty huge. You wonder if the aliens are coming to check out what the heck is going on. Why are all these trees on fire? I don't know.
Look what the heck they're doing to themselves now.
Mm-hmm, exactly. All right. And last but not least, this one just to leave you with some fear and loathing and paranoia to think about. Something else for your brains to chew on here. This is from the mirror.co.uk. When you die, you actually know you're dead because your brain still works for a while. Studies suggest our consciousness goes on after we die, which means we could hear ourselves being pronounced dead. Imagine that. Just imagine that. You can't move. You see in black, or maybe you've seen yourself outside your body. That's a lot of the reports. And you hear that. It said, time of death, 12:15 a.m. You want to hear that? No. You can't move. That's just terrifying. When you die, you know you're dead because the brain keeps functioning and you know what's happening around you. Chilling new research suggests. Medical experts have long debated what happens when a person dies with anecdotal evidence of bright lights or sensations in films such as Flatliners, Exploring the Unknown. But a study suggests that a person's consciousness keeps working after their heart stops beating and their body movements fail. It means they are essentially trapped inside their dead body with the brain still functioning, only for a short time. Cardiac arrest survivors were aware of what was going on around them while they were dead before being brought back to life, the study revealed. Even more shockingly, there is some evidence to suggest that the deceased may even hear themselves being pronounced dead by the doctors. Dr. Sam Perina is studying consciousness after death and examining cardiac arrest cases in Europe and the U.S. He said anecdotal evidence has found that people in the first place of death may still experience some form of consciousness. Experts told Life Science that people who have survived cardiac arrest later accurately describe what was happening around them after their heart stopped beating. He said they'll describe watching doctors and nurses working. They'll describe having awareness of full conversations or visual things that were going on that would otherwise be unknown to them. Explaining with a patient is officially declared dead, he said it's all based on the moment when the heart stops. Technically speaking, that's how you get the time of death. His study examining what happens to the brain after a person goes in cardiac arrest and whether consciousness continues after death and for how long to improve quality of resuscitation and prevent brain injuries while restarting the heart. Unlike the plot to Flatliners, however, when a person is resuscitated, they do not return with a magical enhancement of their memories, said Dr. Pernina. I love how they kind of skirt over, the science there. You're still alive. You can hear yourself be dead, but they talk about these people that have had this experiences. They know what's going on in the room. They can see the doctors. How do they see them? Explain that one. Their eyes are closed. They're dead. How do they see you? How do they know what's going on? Talk about that. No, they just skirt right over it. But you're alive. You hear stuff. It's all the blood in your brain left over. Yeah, well, how do they see you?
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it does make sense.
All the organs, the heart stops, but there's still blood being pumped around. Things don't die immediately. If the brain was destroyed, gunshot or trauma, then I guess that'd be the case. But that's quite terrifying. It reminds me of when I was a boy on the radio. They used to do a show called Fear on 4, and one of them was about a man who was dead, and they were performing an autopsy. But you could hear him thinking, and he was like, "Stop it! Please stop! I'm alive! I'm alive!" And they were doing the autopsy on him.
Yeah, that would pretty much suck.
Never got a
There's only one way to find out.
Right, exactly, and it just. But my main point of that article though is how they skirt over the fact that people can see their bodies. They can see the people in the room, even though there should be no way they should see anybody.
Were they talking about just from peripheral vision that, say I was dead now, and my heart has stopped, but my eyes are open and I can still see
I think they purposely skip over it.
Astral projection, or
I think they're talking about astral projection, but they don't want us to think they're talking about astral projection. And they try to skirt over it because a lot of those, you've heard the near-death experiences. All these people report seeing their body, seeing what's going on in the room, be able to read. And there's even experiments where they've been able to read stuff. They knew stuff that there's no way they could have read, like a sign that was hidden behind something. There's it just, to me, I just love how it's a science article. They just skip over that part. They briefly mention it, but they try not to get too deep into that part, because they just want to be about the science and that your brain's still a little bit alive. And yeah, well, there's something else going on too. You're totally skirting over. But that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. So tonight we're gonna have our guest Gavin Lee Davies on with us. People go check out Late Night in the Midlands radionetwork.com. We're streaming live as a radio show there. You can hear us. Also on TuneIn app, on TalkStream, Paranormal Radio app, also on terrestrial radio. But without that, we wouldn't have that without L&M, Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Go donate, subscribe. Without you, we wouldn't have all these great hosts, all these great shows without your donations and subscriptions. So help us out. All right, guys, we'll be back. Gavin Lee Davies. We're going to talk about his books, Most Haunted House, The Haunted Horror of Haverford. I'm totally butchering that. And of course, we're going to get into Haverford West. And then, of course, we're going to get in. We got to get in a little bit about ghost sex violation. Can't help it. We're going to just a little bit. But we got to get into all that. So we got a lot of time. So let's get rolling in our commercial break. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe, 5 by 5.
Tonight, our guest is Gavin Lee Davies. Gavin Lee Davies created ParanormalChronicles.com in October of 2013. He became sole owner of Pembrokeshire Beyond in January 2015 and is currently the publisher at sixbooks.com. Born in 1975, Gavin Lee Davies lives in Pembrokeshire, West Wales. He studied hauntings and 19th century literature and spent most of his careers in advertising and sales. He won ITV's 6-part TV series, Natural Born Sellers in 2008, and featured on Harry Hill T.V Burp Show 2009. Burp Show. I can only imagine. His passion has always been for paranormal, and he spent years listening and collating local ghost stories and myths. He says he's still on the fence in terms of his beliefs, but has witnessed many strange occurrences in his life, but prefers to travel the psychological and rational route before making any assumptions. He respects the views of on all subjects, saying that no person alive has the knowledge and understanding of time, space, and intricacies of the human mind to be so sure of anything to do with the paranormal. And boy, I couldn't agree more with that statement. His first book, A Most Haunted House, was self-published in October 2013. Wow, can I talk? And he sold over 50,000 copies to date. The Most Haunted House has topped the Kindle Unexplained Mysteries and Supernatural charts in UK, US, Australia, Canada, and Germany. And he's focused on true hauntings in his hometown of Haverfordwest. It was read and reviewed by world-renowned Uri Geller, who said Gavin L Davies has written an amazing account of what seems to be a real haunted house. I was riveted to every page. I hope the book will be made into a movie someday. And that's big words from Uri Geller, man. That's one interview I'd love to do. Gavin L Davies followed his debut novel with the controversial and polarizing novel Ghost Sex: The Violation. The novel was the raw and gritty true account of family assault by a vicious, brutal paranormal entity. The descriptions of the paranormal sexual assault and abuse were not to be everyone's liking. Gavin responded to the backlash. Oh, there goes my article. Whoops. Sorry. Totally lost where I was at. Sorry. Horrible start here. Gavin responded to the backlash as it's not the 50 Shades of Ghosts, but a brutal and traumatic haunting of ghost sex. The Violation is for hardcore paranormal faithful out there, not your Mills and Boone crowd. He's also does his paranormal reports for the ParanormalChronicles.com. He also is author, like I said, of Most Haunted House. He's been on several radio shows. He was on our show. It was back in 2015, December 20th. So it's almost been 3 years. We're that close to that anniversary of him being on. It was a great show, and I know it's going to be a great show tonight. So let's get to our guest. All right. By the way, man, there's a long bio I was reading, and I totally hit your article link, and it took me out. I'm like, oh, that screwed me. Totally screwed it all up. I lost where I was at. But welcome at 4:37 a.m. where you're at?
Yes, and can I just say, it's not only myself up at 4:37 here in Wales, but can I just say a massive hello to Lee and Tila Grant from Paranormal Post-Mortem. Paranormal Post-Mortem. It's quite difficult to say at 4:37. And they've stayed awake to listen to this. And they are a phenomenal Wales-based paranormal team. And they're doing amazing work. And a lot of the stuff I've introduced and got out there, they're actually working on. Because I don't go out anymore. Since I had a mini stroke, I just stay in. I don't work as hard. But they're working really, really hard. So hello, Lee. Hello, Tila. Thank you for coming to the book signing yesterday. It was wonderful to see you. And also, other good friends, mutual friends of ours, Jason, Jennifer and Kevin Malik.
Oh, yeah.
From Wisconsin Paranormal Research Society and Paraversal Radio. They're listening as well. So hello. So it's nice. It's a nice family kind of based atmosphere we've got. And we're going to talk about severe hauntings and ghost sex.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe it's been 3 years. Like, we did try to get you back on, and you had a weather issue that happened and knocked you off, that you weren't able to get on with us that night. And it's like, when we finally booked this date, I've been like counting down the days, because it was one of the best, most fun shows I ever had was having you on as a guest. So I've been excited to do this. So now I do want to... I do want to, give you the floor here to kind of tell the people a little bit more. I mean, yeah, I gave the bio, but more in your words, who you are, what you're doing, and your new book. Where I'll tie all that in for us.
Thank you very much, Jason. Can I just say, when I was on your show before, 3 years ago, I can't believe it's 3 years ago. I can remember it like it was yesterday, even though I had a mini stroke. And it was huge. It was absolutely huge. And I still get feedback from today from that show. And people still search for it on my website. So it just goes to show the power of your show and also the interest in the spectrophilia ghost sex phenomenon. I don't think it's me. I don't think people are staying up to see my Welsh face. I think they want to really get the grips of a controversial and polarizing subject, which is ghost sex, because it's one of those subjects where people are like, well, really? Is this real? Is this true? And then they start hearing it and go, oh my God, I hope it doesn't happen to me.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The other half are saying, I hope it does happen to me. Because the most searched thing on the paranormalchronicles.com website is the most searched thing. It's had over 20,000 searches. Is how do you get a ghost to have sex with me?
Why?
Which means there's a lot of. I know there's a lot. Jason, if me and you sat down and wrote a book now called "How to Get a Ghost to Have
We'd be
Sex,"
millionaires, man.
we'd be millionaires. We'd be done. We'd be done. So, so we'll talk about that a bit later on. But first of all, for everybody, all the Paranormal Soup fans, all the people listening, you guys are amazing. A little treat for you. I put it up in the Facebook chat room. The Paranormal Chronicles has created a free-for-all magazine.
That's awesome.
There's no subscription, no download, no sign-up. You just go to the paranormalchronicles.com. On the left, it says magazine. Get on there. Jason's in the next episode, in the next magazine, rather, which is coming out in March, right? But the November one, the winter one's here, right? And it is awesome. I put together the best writers ever. 125 pages. I've got a list here. Some of the article titles, okay? Is Bigfoot an alien, right? Sounds insane. People go, Bigfoot doesn't even exist. Hey, read the article because it blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, maybe he is an alien. Maybe that's why we can't find it, because one of the writers...
I've always said, what if he's the pet? What if he's like the family pet? They take out for a walk. I mean, how many UFO sightings have there been? And then somebody saw a Bigfoot. There's been a number of those kind of cases. And I've always said maybe the 8 Grays have a big, Han Solo had Chewbacca. I'm just saying maybe he's the family pet. I don't know. Not saying Chewbacca was a pet. But
you got to be careful.
Yeah, he was
we
not a pet.
go into,
he was a good friend of Han Solo.
We've already had a conversation about orangutan. Let's not bring Chewbacca into that murky waters, okay? He was a co-pilot and a good hand he's a good friend to Han Solo, okay? So let's not go down the orangutan route. If you don't know what we're on about, just Google it, okay? Is Bigfoot an alien, okay? And the article was really well written, really well researched, right? And it suggested that it was an alien probe that was sent, and that all these different creatures like octopuses and things that had arrived were probes. Absolutely incredible, okay? We're talking about it in the I can't say it. The World Wide
Web of Weird.
You say that, and I'll say Haverfordwest, okay?
Right, you will trade.
Okay? Right. And there's an amazing article about life after death. This amazing article never ever occurred to me, right, about haunted chairs. Think about all the residual energy that is put into a chair. Judges,
I thought about that.
Policemen, death row, prisoners murdered. Absolutely superb article about that. Past lives, UFO pictures with NASA.black. There's Ghost X. So if you're really into Ghost X, or you want to know more, and maybe you don't want to buy my book, you just want to get the grips of it. It's all in there, okay? And it's 125 pages, and just go and read it. And there is one of the best ghost pictures you will ever see in your lives. The article is called Pete's Ghost, okay? You can see it there. There's a fire juggler in the picture. And just off that picture, right, is the best ghost picture I've ever seen. And that was taken by Verianne Williams, who's an author of a book called The Spirit Trapper, okay? So go and get your free magazine. I put the link in the comments. Jason's got links as well. Go to the paranormalchronicles.com. It just says magazine. Read the magazine. If you have ambitions of writing, or you're an author and you want to be in the March edition, get in touch with me as soon as possible. And also a little thing as well, if any of you are authors, or you've got books on Kindle and you're looking to start a writing career based around the paranormal, get in touch with me, because the amazing, humbling experience was my publisher, John Hunt Publishing, this huge publishing company for some of the biggest writers in the world, took me on for one of their imprints, which is called Sixth Books, all right? And they do books about the paranormal, and they're looking for more paranormal. So me and you can work together, and, we can get you opportunities, come people like Jason's show and Kevin and Jennifer's show, and talk about your books, right? So if you want to write, you've got something written, get in touch with me, and I will work my hardest to get you published. So that's all my plugs out the way, okay? They were good plugs, because I'm giving stuff away. I'm giving you
the paranormal. But the free magazine, I really urge people to go check it out. It's beautiful. It really is. You said your 14 magazine. it's that, to me, it's that good. I really enjoyed the magazine, and it's free. How can you not go check it out? If you're interested, you're watching this show, you're obviously interested in these subjects, and you should check out this magazine for sure.
Thank you, Jason. And I want to keep it free. It's all very well taken and people buying my books and whatnot, okay? As long as I can and I'm able to do it, I want to produce a free magazine every quarter. It's not to compete with anyone. I'm not trying to compete. There's loads of amazing magazines out there, okay? That's not what I'm trying to do. I just wanted to present my own version with some of the best writers, podcasters, paranormal personalities like Jason, like Kevin and Jennifer Malik. Paranormal Post-Mortem, they were featured in it. There was a little ad for all their Facebook stuff, right? And that's all I want to do. So if you're a paranormal team, you're a researcher, writer, anything, just get in touch with me, okay? Because it's all about spreading knowledge. And the next magazine is going to be 150 pages, right? And it's going to be free. I want it to be free every quarter so that knowledge shouldn't have to be paid for. And as long as I can do it, I had a mini stroke last year. That's why I haven't done interviews for a while, because I was crazy. Like, I didn't know what was going on. I was medicated. I couldn't speak. All kinds of berserk stuff that's happening to me, okay? I'm better now, and I want to give something back to the people people like Jason, to the people who watch the show, to the people who go to the Paranormal Chronicles, people who read my book. So that's the plug. It's free. The best price of all. It's free. There's no sign up, no download, nothing. You don't have to subscribe. You don't even have to download it. You can just click on it and you can just start reading it, and the pages move. The pages actually move. So you can read it on your phone, on your Xbox, on your laptop. It looks beautiful on a desktop.
It is very beautiful.
So there we go. And Jason's going to be in the next one, and I've already read his article, and it's excellent.
Well, thank you. I was trying to think about I would like to write more for you, and I was trying to think what would be a good introduction article. So I share a story, people, on there. Maybe a little bit of the story has been shared on the show before, but it's all written out. So my green floating head story. That's all I'll say. But yeah, check it out, people.
Check it out if you want to. It's good because you get to know Jason a little bit better. He might not have talked about it on the show or not for a while, and it's just a really nice way for people to connect. And I'm not. You could. Some of you will read it cover to cover, and some of you will go, "I'm not interested in that article." Oh my God! Here's one about ghosts. There's a great article about demons, about people's first time ghost hunting, and some of the articles were so well written. I struggled. They were about we're living in a matrix and all these great things. Oh my God! You don't want to be reading that kind of stuff before bed. But but thank you for allowing me to talk about the magazine, because I'm really proud of it, and it's free.
You should be. It's a really beautiful magazine. And I said, if people are interested in these kind of subjects, I mean, we could talk about so many of the things I saw in that magazine. I'm like, oh my God, there's so many good topics all covered in those 125 pages. People, you just have to check it out. Now, your first book, Most Haunted House, that was your first paranormal delve, into your. I don't know. I mean, you gave it away the first time you were on here. I guess we cut short to the fact that the way the book is, it seems like a story about somebody else.
Yes.
But I mean, I don't know. Give it away. I don't know for people that are new to this. I don't know. Should we? That was a hard one last time you were on. There might be new listeners. I don't know. It's got a twist.
It's really strange. It's really strange, this, right? Because I have a brand new book out, right? It's called Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest, right? It's doing really, really well. It's been nominated for Paranormal Book of the Year, and it's got really strong reviews on Goodreads, and most of the people have enjoyed it. Now, I wrote a book in 2013 called The Most Haunted House, and it was about a couple called John and Sarah who lived in a house in Haverfordwest, and it was haunted, and it broke their relationship apart. And it was me. And in the new book, not only do you get The Most Haunted House with a new edit, you get another story from people who lived in the exact same house from 1989 to 1991.
That's what I think is so awesome about it, is that collaboration.
Yes, so it was the validation, but it was validation I didn't want. So the best way, to introduce myself, if you don't know me, okay, right? I'm not gifted. I haven't got any abilities. I'm not psychic. I don't see dead people. I'm a guy from a village in Pembrokeshire called Merlinsbridge, self-educated, dyslexic, prone to mini strokes, who just really enjoys the subject. Okay, I love it. I absorb it. I only know about two things, right? The paranormal and wrestling. Right? American wrestling in particular.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. Mad. They go hand in hand, some people say, okay? So I've always been interested in the paranormal since I was a little boy, and I've delved in and out of it as I've gone through life. And I bought a house in the early noughties, which was the premise of A Most Haunted House. So that book is 90% real, apart from all the names have changed. Now, you fast forward 10 years from the events, I'm suffering severe depression. I'm an alcoholic. My life is in tatters. My career's gone down the pan, and I'm suicidal. Okay. I'm sorry if this sounds like really negative. There is a positive. Okay. And I had a severe breakdown where I took a load of drugs and prescription drugs and 2 bottles of rum with the intention of just putting an end to my misery. And I woke up the next day free from the effects of anything, which was a startling occurrence in itself. No one had come in the house. I hadn't been sick. I had somehow survived this event. And this is all detailed in Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest. So the day I woke up, the next day after that event, I was like, there's a flicker of hope. Life is precious. And I went on a crusade to better myself. I've been sober 6 years, gave up smoking, and I've tried to be a good person, an honest person. I don't get everything right. I took accountability of my life, okay? And part of the catharsis to that, when I was getting mental health support, was looking at triggers. And one of the triggers was my time 10 years before. I'd bought a house, blissful beginnings. I was madly in love with a beautiful young lady. We'd had such a good run. We bought the house. 3 months later, we've broken up and we don't even talk. There was an affair. I ended up an alcoholic, and it led to 10 years of just a slide into the abyss, okay? So I emerged out of the abyss, and part of my catharsism was writing A Most Haunted House. And what I did was I kind of disassociated my life by putting it into a faceless man, a character called John. And it just helped me understand what happened there. So I play 2 roles. I'm the investigator, and I'm also a man in the book. But nobody knew it was me apart from close friends. So one of my friends read it and said, "Oh my God, this is amazing. I've never read anything like it. I've never read the style like this before. It made me cry. It scared the life out of me. Was it a haunting at the house, or was it the fact that the relationship was going off? Did the haunting cause it all, or was it the fact we were just depressed and mentally ill?" And that's the premise of the book. So I self-published it on Kindle for like 99p or 99 cents, whatever it was. And 60,000 people ended up reading it. And a journalist from a magazine approached me and said, "Let's talk about it." And I said, "Okay, it's me." And people close to me knew anyway, and they were like, "Cool." And people who didn't were like, "Oh, why did you hide?" Because I was rebuilding my life, and from being a faceless man, I could come to terms with what happened. So the house was severely haunted in terms of, it wasn't just us that experienced it. Our neighbors experienced it. Guests experienced it. So A Most Haunted House was a testimonial of the 3 months I lived there, okay? Don't go out and buy A Most Haunted House, because it's in Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest as a brand new edit.
Right.
So not only will you get the new account from 1989 to 1991, you'll get A Most Haunted House that took place in 2002, and you'll get a summary of explanations from gas to mobile communication. So if you're a skeptic, hey, you'll find your answers. If you're a believer, you'll find your answers. If you're just interested in paranormal, you now have 30 years worth of paranormal accounts. So in A Most Haunted House, as these things happen, little things, doors opening, cold spots, smells, etc., little things, mundane things that you don't necessarily take any notice of. And you find them quite charming. You think, oh, we might have a ghost. It's, you know, it doesn't do any harm, blah, blah, blah. And then it did do harm. And we were haunted by a presence that we would come to know as the Angry Man, which was a 7-foot entity that would come from the neighbor's house into ours. And one night we were in bed, me and my girlfriend, and we heard our front window get kicked in. And what sounded like men coming into our living room and just opening drawers, kicking things in, smashing things. And we believed we were the victims of a home invasion. And this is 2002. We don't have the technology we have now. We're Welsh. We don't have guns. We're not like you Americans. You got guns. You know, like, yeah, good. Bring them in. I'll have them now. You know.
Now you're on my property.
Yeah.
I'll shoot you. And I'll shoot you outside my property and drag you inside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like we
Get off my lawn.
You know, they're just in the house, and like, what do you do? And like, we didn't have a baseball bat, and all these things happen. If you've ever been a victim of home invasion, right, it happens really quick. It's not like it's spread over hours. Everything's immediate. And I pushed my body against the door while trying to coax my girlfriend through the skylight onto the roof, hoping someone had heard us. We didn't have a phone in the bedroom. We had a mobile, which wasn't charged, a cell phone, as you call it. And we heard someone run up the stairs and push the door.
Oh my God.
And I felt the weight of the door. And I look, I'm 5'6". Back then, you know, I wasn't as tubby as I am now. I'm pleasantly plump now. I'm festively shaped now. But back then I was like 10 stone, you know, I was 120 pounds soaking wet, right? And I didn't know what to do. I had a mug in my hand. I had a cup, a ceramic cup. And I shouted and they ran off. And eventually we came out. I came out the bedroom and the house had been untouched. There was nothing. The window was intact. The doors were locked from the inside. There was no entry into the house whatsoever. The only thing that had happened was that the CDs had been put in a spiral and a picture of me and my girlfriend had been put by the door. And we knew then we were dealing with something different, something out of this world. And lots of things happen. You know, the mundane stuff, a lot of you are familiar with, seeing stuff from your peripheral. By the way, people, this isn't my house. I'm house sitting. And the last show I did, people in the audience started seeing stuff, okay? So if you see anything, put it in the comments. I've kept the window curtains open because stuff has come to the window before. I am in the middle of nowhere. If you see a man with an axe come in, by the time you call the cops, I'm dead, all right? So keep an eye out in the background, got all the lights on. I've got the curtains open. So if you see anything in this house, there it is, it's Haverfordwest. Haverfordwest.
Haverfordwest. I'm going to butcher it all.
Paranormal Post-Mortem are in a place called Nayland, which is by Milford Haven. Okay, so I believe they are anyway. So all these things started happening, seeing things from the peripheral, and it's not only the descriptions of the haunting from the people involved, but it's the wedge it drove between the couple, okay? And me and my girlfriend, who I've called Sarah in the book, I've got a gag order on me. I'm not allowed to say where the house is. I'm trying to get enough money to buy the house back.
I wondered.
Yeah, I want to buy the house back. I don't know if I'm ready to go in yet. But anybody who has a copy of the book on Kindle, or whether you borrowed it or stolen it, whatever, I don't care, right? That book is your key to go into that house. So if I ever buy that house back, that book, wherever you live in Australia, Timbuktu, or Iceland, or in Milford Haven, or in Haverfordwest, that book is your key. And I want to have that house for scientific research, okay? So these events happened. Me and my girlfriend broke up. I left. It tried to set the house on fire. It tried to put her out of bed. And lots of people have lived there. Now, I've done loads of research on the house, and 7 couples have lived in that house between 1989 and 2002. And the house is empty now. Channel 4, which is a big TV company here in the UK, they wanted to commission a show there, and they offered quite a lot of money, and it was turned down because they want to sell the house. They want to rent the house out, and they can't do it, okay? So I started investigating it, and believers might say, why don't you just accept it? But my mental health was so disturbed by what had happened, I needed to rationalize it. So they had used something called Tetra technology, which was a cell phone, a mobile phone carrier signal, a bit like the introduction to like 3G, 4G, 5G. It's just like, amplifying mobile cell phone reception. And I did some research into it, and the technology was actually based on Cold War technology. And it was a technology that would be used to make enemy troops feel demoralized. They would feel homesick. They would feel paranoid.
Right.
It would even affect their stomach, okay? So I experienced the haunting. My girlfriend experienced the haunting. Our neighbors experienced the haunting. People we knew who lived there before us experienced the haunting, and our guests experienced the haunting. So I was very, very satisfied that it was this technology. I could accept it. If a skeptic or anybody came up to me and said, what it is Tetra technology that caused the haunting, I would have taken it because it was good for my mental health, because it was so distressing living there that it made me very, very ill. And it had a huge effect on me for 10 years, okay? So around the time I'm talking to Jason for the first time, I'm in a magazine and I reveal that I was the guy in the book, and I hid behind a faceless man because I was working through mental health issues, blah, blah, blah. But I felt much better about everything. And I was very satisfied that it was Tetra technology that caused the haunting. The very next day, I get an email off a woman, and not only does she identify, it was a couple of weeks later, not only did she identify the street the house was on, she also identified the number of the house, and then presented deeds that showed that she and her partner lived and owned the house from 1989 to 1991, and they experienced the most horrendous haunting I have ever come across. It's beyond film, it's beyond television. It was so surreal. I spent 2 years interviewing them. Terrible time for me because all my beliefs have collapsed now because they weren't using Tetra technology back in 1989.
Yeah, I was going to say, and why would they be using it on that spot and and that long, right? Like back in 1989, no. I mean, why
exactly.
keep doing it? They would shut the project down at some point.
Yeah, exactly. There would be complaints. In the book, okay, there's a big section on explanations. So if you are a ghost hunter or an investigator or an enthusiast, or even you're really skeptical, I present the whole argument of how Tetra can actually cause hallucinations, paranoia, nosebleeds. It can cause temperature. So in the book, I will give you everything about the haunting, about my haunting, and then explanations. So you've got a complete volume. So if you're really into your hauntings and ghost stories, you will have everything. And I don't write it as a narrative. I don't say, and John came up and he got in his car. No, I interviewed the subjects over time, and I interview them and I cross-examine them, and I interview them together, and I separate them, and I try and get the real accurate story out of them. So what you read is an interview with the people. I take my questioning out, so it just flows as a narrative, and you get their feelings. So I take them, I want to know, what were they feeling? What were they eating? What were they dreaming? What were they thinking, okay? Not just, anybody could write, whoa.
What happened?
Sorry, guys, I just saw someone walk past my window.
I know something spooked you because I watched you freeze. I thought the web froze.
I saw something back there too.
Well, what did you see? Because I missed it. I just was watching Gavin entranced in his talk, and I saw him freeze, and I'm like, okay, something happened.
Yeah, I saw something.
So something just walked past my window, okay, and
that's what replay will be for. I will be watching that as soon as we get done tonight. I missed it.
I don't know, because there's a lot of stuff swirling behind you, so maybe I just kind of caught from the corner of my eye. But every night I can hear someone walking around the house. but it's impossible because there's a load of outbuildings and things. And one night, I was given mini stroke drugs, and I thought I saw a blue man in the bedroom, and I was like, oh my God, I've gone mad again. It's the drugs, right? It's the drugs. And then I see a witch, and she's like, oh yeah, the blue man. And I go, don't talk about that. I'm living here on my own. Let's just say it's the drugs, okay? It's all very good talking and reading and writing about this stuff, but when you've got experience, it's very different. But
so you met a physical woman, a witch, and she mentioned the blue man you had seen?
Yeah, she said there's monks. There's a pathway going through the village I live, and monks used to use it as a pilgrim's trail to go to St. David's, which is like a holy mini city we have here, a holy city here in Wales. And that they're drawn to the house. And the people who lived here the night before they left were saying, oh yeah, there's negative energies in the house, and there's an angry spirit, and I threw a printer off the wall. And I'm like, cheers for that. I've got to spend the next 3 months living here on my own. But thank you very much.
You think you might have had your fill of that too, you know?
Yeah, I've had enough of it. I've had enough of it now. So I going back to the story, I spent 2 years interviewing these people, and all my theories just collapsed. And all the things I'd worked against, you know, the depression, anxiety, all started coming back. And we went back to the house. So this is 15 years before I lived there. So in the book, you've got their account from 1989 to 1991. Then you've got my 3 months there of 2002. And then you've got explanations, and then little bits in between, things the neighbors picked up, other couples, etc. Right? So you've got the complete thing in the house. This haunting is the most surreal haunting you could ever imagine, okay? And it starts off as a residual haunting. You know, what I mean by that is that it just seems that little things are being played out.
Right.
In terms
it's not intelligent.
It's not intelligent at the stage. It's just things like creaking and doors and little things. But they made a grisly discovery in the garden, very much like the Amityville horror. Instead of an Indian burial ground, they found a pile of animal remains, cats, dogs, just bones. And the wife, who's called Anne in this, she was very distressed by it, and the husband a bit more rational. It's just like, it's probably like Pet Cemetery or who knows. And they get lots of images and things to do with animals. One night the husband woke up, and all he could hear was a dog barking, and it didn't wake his wife up, but all he could hear was a dog barking. So he got up, and it was really difficult for me because when they were describing a house, I'd lived there, so I could see it. It wasn't like a lot of you were trying to imagine a house. I'm there. And he went outside, and he saw what he appeared to be the black shadow of a dog in the garden, just kind of like meld into a tree, into the shadows. And again, at that stage, it wasn't particularly upsetting. It was just what's going on. Moving house is stressful. They were starting to look into things then. The man who had lived there before him had died of a wasting disease, but you know, he hadn't been any, you know, he wasn't like an axe murderer or Satanist or anything like that.
Are you sure? You never know. Well,
the book talks about little old Haverfordwest, little old Pembrokeshire did actually have a serial killer, which we'll talk about briefly. He's called the Bullseye Killer. And Bullseye is a UK game show, and it's based on darts. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you answer questions. He was on that, and he was a prolific murderer, rapist, and thief. And, you know, they start looking into things like that then. And, you know, so even little towns, even little places in Wales. And this house has a connection to that, but I'm not allowed to discuss it because it's not my house. So the book, can you hear that? I think that's the wind. I'm hoping that's the wind.
I didn't hear it, but I know people have said some of the audience did see something behind you earlier when you did, and somebody said that light was flickering behind you. So I saw somebody post in the chat room. I keep missing because I'm like focusing on you and I'm listening to you, And I'm like, man, I got to watch what's going on here. I had the screen up there for a while just on you, just so we could watch for a little bit. But I know we got a commercial break coming up here in a minute. But yeah, I don't know, man. What are you hearing? I have to know. I have to ask.
It's very, very stormy here, and I could hear rattling. And you know, you just when you got the back to your room and you got the curtains, and you just feel very vulnerable.
We're watching your back, man. I'll let you know right before it gets
what
you.
What are you gonna do by the time you get here? They'll have buried me. You know what I mean?
Run!
Well, the good news is when I'm dead, at least I'll still be thinking. When I'll be very, very big, like night going, oh look, I'm dead. I've been pronounced dead at 5:10 a.m. on the 12th of the 3rd, 2018.
But you'll hear it.
Yeah, that's why I said, yeah, be mad, and then I'll go to heaven with edible babies and an orangutan. So that'll be insane.
God.
So the haunting then became more intelligent, and it was more reactionary to what was going on in the house. And there's so many details, so many accounts, so many little things, big things, mundane things, things that can be easily excused, things that are certainly strange. And what I wanted to do with this, I wanted the lady kept a journal. So if any of you have been haunted, keep a journal, okay?
It's a great.
And keep a journal about your dreams, your thought processes, your anxiety, okay? Because these are really, really important. And she'd kept the journal, and she was having dreams of the house 100 years or so before. And that the house used to be two houses. And the stuff that she used to go to. So you've got a residual haunting becoming an intelligent haunting, and then you've got possible time travel, or traveling back to different times, because she saw the most insane animal cruelty. Like there's a part of animal cruelty in it, and I'm just going to warn you because it's very upsetting. Incest and child cruelty, and it's shocking to think that this is going on. And then they start making connections that what if all these bones in the garden is to do with the people who lived there before. And so then you start thinking, and then I'm thinking, oh my God, the haunting was by these weird people that lived there in 1900. And these dreams were so vivid that the woman could see smells, she could smell, she could have feelings, and she'd wake up and feel very, very ill. And the husband was just trying to be really rationalized. He's just being a guy, he's just trying to rationalize it all.
Somebody's got to be sane. That's how you feel.
She didn't want to. At that time, none of them had any particular paranormal experiences. There's little things that we talk about to introduce it, little things they'd had as kids, and just to set the scene, isn't it? But the woman now is a full-on spiritualist. She's proper embraced the good side of the paranormal, the healing, the protection, the white light, all of that because of what happened in that house. Okay. And so electrical equipment starts going awry, which is a common trait of hauntings. And they have full-on communication with a radio, even when it's unplugged. And the phone, and that's all documented in the book. And there's the creepiest song that they'd hear coming out this radio. It is so creepy, right? And I did some research on the song, and it was used in cartoons in the 1930s. It was very popular in America in like the 1900s. But it looked like it was a vaudeville song, an old British Victorian song that they would sing. And it's a nonsense song, right? And the song would go along the lines of, so I can't remember off the top of my head, it's in the boat, like Billy's got a flea in his ear. Who cut the arms of Grandad's vest? Baby smacked its chin on the windowsill, and go get the axe, right? And it's just coming from the radio, right? So now
1930s rap, I guess. That's what it sounded like.
It's like gangsters, like go get the axe, And you can't make it up because it's such an obscure song.
That is creepy.
I found it on YouTube, and I actually played it back to him. I got on YouTube, funny enough, there was a little girl singing it, so I recorded it and I played it back. So So this is 30 years later. I'm sat with them, nearly 30 years later, and I play them the song back, and they were so angry with me. They were like, "We never want to hear that.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this to us? Not in this house," because they're in a new house. They're like, "Why are you
Like
doing
they
this
don't
to
want
us?"
to. Yeah, that is the. I think for people who have lived in a haunted house, being a paranormal investigator, for people who are living in it, when they want to get out, that's like their biggest fear is they're going to follow me. And for those who have gotten out, that fear is like, is it ever going to come here, come back? And let's not do anything to make that happen, because I've seen that kind of fear in people when they really lived in something that dark.
Exactly. And one of the things I did, which everyone would be glad to do, is once I got all the interviews done and presented their account, I went back to see them and say one more interview and asked all the questions that I knew people would want to know. And like things like they conceived a child while they were there, but they got out. And like, was there any effect with a child? Did they have any dreams? Did they have any experiences? What would they say to people who lived there? And like just all these questions that I know that people would want to ask. So I've asked that. So the haunting has gone from this very mundane, usual trappings of a haunting to an intelligent haunting to severe visions or possible time travel, which sounds insane in itself. And now we've got communication through the radios. And then we have something I've had personal experience with, and it's the most depressing feeling in the world, and that is an encounter with the Angry Man. And the Angry Man is a 7-foot entity, and it's just pure dread. It's just pure dread. The night I thought we were the victims of a home invasion, people have suggested that was him making his presence known. So while all of this is going on, the weird dreams, the visions, the poltergeist activity, the wedge begins. And I have a theory on this, right? The wedge begins. They're tired, they're anxious, they're paranoid, they've just bought a house, blissful beginnings, exact same as me, they're in love, and the wedge begins. And this is where it gets really, really, really strange, okay? There's a million things happen, all these strange things happen, okay? And they bring in a well-renowned psychic medium. She's not from Pembrokeshire, she's from another part of Wales. And she came down. And this woman had worked with the police and with the church. And she was an elderly lady. And she came to the house and she tried to do a blessing, I guess, a cleansing. And whatever she saw, that was it for her, and she died. Not like immediately, it's not that dramatic, but she died not long after. Wow. It ruined her, it withered her. And there's an amazing quote, because I spoke to her companion, a woman who's now in her 80s, and we were going through her journal and her notes and her last conversations. This woman, who's called Rose in the book, because all her work was done, like, she wasn't like, she didn't try to become famous off it or make money off it. She died pretty much in poverty. She was impoverished because it was a gift she used for good, okay? And when she went to the house to cleanse it, she said what she saw was beyond hell. And she said whatever it was in the house, God had not created it, and the devil feared it. What a quote. You can't make that up.
Wow.
Yeah, it's beyond hell, and whatever it was is from beyond hell, and God did not create it, and the devil feared it, okay? And she said she'd seen demons, she'd seen spirit, she'd seen angry spirit, she'd seen ghosts, she'd seen all these things, but this thing was incomprehensible to describe. And the book's theme is about like nature overwhelming, and this thing sounds absolutely insane, and people might switch off now, and I do apologize. It's just a theory, okay? So I don't want to offend anyone, but it was almost as if there is a tear in the fabric of our existence, and something from another dimension has seeped in, like a mold or a virus, and it attaches to us, and it sucks all hope. It feeds off our negativity. And this is what she described without actually describing it, because what she saw, she couldn't describe. She said there was fragments of other people in it. She couldn't find the words to describe it. She said the people living there, she could see like these tendrils coming out of a mass, just sticking into their heads. Ooh. And they were walking around like the way she described it was like I don't know what you call them in America. We call them bumper cars, dodgems, and they've got like a thing on the back that connects to the electricity on the top.
Bumper car. Yep.
Yeah, bumper car. And these were attached to them, and it was literally feeding on them. And when we talk about attachments, we automatically think demons, ghosts, spirits, whatnot, okay? This woman is saying this is something beyond all of that. This is something new. This is something terrifying, and it killed her. And she was terrified of dying because she had given herself, she'd seen this thing, and she was a part of it, which really worries me. Because I didn't want to hear that, because I lived in this house for 3 months. Lots of people have lived in this house for 3 months, and I don't know what's going to be awaiting me when my days finally come. So this thing drove a wedge between the couple. They started accusing each other of having an affair. One of them broke his ankle, and he was medicated, and he started putting on weight. The phone kept going in the middle of the night, and the wife was upstairs sleeping, and she could swear her husband was on the phone talking to a woman when this wasn't happening. And it got to the stage that the wife accused her husband of sleeping with her mother, because every time she went to the bedroom, she could smell perfume, and the bed was always, and it's like her mother's, and the bed was always unmade. It was like, so she'd go to work, her husband would be there. The guy's, he's watching sport. It's 1989. He's watching his sport. He's got a broken leg. He's just sat there on his pain medication, eating all day, and his wife comes home. She goes upstairs in a stink of perfume, and the bed's all ruffled up. And she's like, who's been in the house? And he's like, no one. I haven't been upstairs because the bathroom's downstairs.
Right.
So I haven't been upstairs. And she said, well, I made the bed this morning. I make the bed every morning. And it started then. It started getting into their head.
That's very intelligent haunting. Like when I from your experiences and stuff I heard from just the first interview, from your own experiences, it reminds me of the 4 months of hell I went through with a shadow person experience, which I've never quantified as a demon. I've always felt it was something else, and something, a lot of weird synchronicities, just weird stuff, and the way it went after me, maybe nowhere near as terrifying as it did for you. But I felt the same way, is that there's, everybody wants to call it demonic, but there's some other things, like what you experienced and what I experienced, that it's something else. It's something beyond that.
Yeah, exactly. And so many people, I'd like to think I got out lucky. I was only there for 3 months. The couple from Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest, they were there for 2 years. And it shattered them. It absolutely shatters them. And when you find out that 7 couples have lived in that house from 1989 to 2002 or whatever, and everyone's experiencing the same. And I bet there's people out there now going, do you know what? I was really happy until I came to live at this house. Me and my wife, me and my partner, me and my husband, me and my children, whatever. We were getting on swell. And when we've come and lived here, and everything has just gone wrong. And we talk about curses. We talk about demons and bad spirits and bad juju and all this kind of stuff. And I want to explore this whole notion. I've explored everything in the book, right? From gas to EMF to mobile phone carriers to psychology. Jennifer Malik, amazing woman. She actually put a bit in the book about demonology. Okay. Amazing skeptical scientist I know called Claire Elliott from the Claire Witch Files. She put a bit in about psychology. I looked at drugs, hallucinogenics, time travel, aliens, dimensional beings. There's a huge chunk of book that covers the whole spectrum. So if you're an investigator or an enthusiast, you want to know all of those things, because you want to go into a house and think, is it gas? Is it EMF? Is it radon gas? Is it tetra? Is it toxic mold syndrome? So
right. There's a lot before.
Yeah. You know, there's all these different things. But I end the book with, what if? What if there are tears, fabrics within our reality, things we can't fix, can't see, and something alien, incomprehensible within our understanding, something that's inhuman that sees us like an ant or a bug, you know, and it's seeping through into our reality, and it just works on us. It can get into our heads. It can appear as children or angry men. It can change time, so people are going back and forth in time. You know, who knows? It's absolutely insane. There's one part of the book. There's so much in the book. Like, we could do like a 10-hour show just on all the little things.
We got to go to commercial break here, so we got a lot more to talk about that book. So let's go to a commercial break. We're going to hold it there, Gavin, because there's so much more to get into. Because what I'm thinking too is you talk about terror in the universe. You know, it sounds, you know, your experience in the Haverford West, where it is. Maybe it's the Skinwalker Ranch of Wales. You know, because it's a paranormal soup of what happened there with you know, all these different things, and it's Skinwalker Ranch. We were just talking about this, I think, 2 weeks ago when we had our last show, how there could be these terrors in the universe, and that's why people have Bigfoots and aliens and ghosts and demonic and creatures, all in this one area, because there is a terror in the universe. I believe I'm a big parallel universe and other dimensions guy. That I really, in my heart of hearts, feel there's something like that going around. I think science is finding that out. So, yeah, we'll get more into that. All right, guys, we'll be back with our guest, Gavin Lee Davies. Go check us out at Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup on Facebook, where we're a webcast if you're listening on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. And go donate and subscribe to Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Without you, we wouldn't have all these great shows and all these great hosts. We need your help with your subscriptions and donations. All right, guys, we will be back in just a few minutes.
In your face, all over the place. We're online 24/7. 24/7. You're listening to the hottest station.
You said before you were waiting for a sign. What sign are you waiting for?
Gozer the Traveler. He will come in one of the pre-chosen forms. During the rectification of the Valdrani, the Traveler came as a large and moving torb. Then, during the third reconciliation of the last of the McKettrick supplicants, they chose a new form for him, that of a giant slore. Many Shubs and Zools knew what it was to be roasted in the depths of the slore that day, I can tell you.
Be gone.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Gavin Lee Davies. He's the author of The Haunted Horror of Haverford West. I'm totally going to put this in. Butchered. I had it and then I lost it. Haverford West. We're talking about that tonight. It includes his first novel, Most Haunted House. We're talking about that story. And of course, we're going to get into his other novel, too, is Ghost Sex, The Violation. And we will have the phone lines open. You can call in. Just hold on until we call on you. There's a couple ways you can call in. You can call in at 219-230-4444. You can also call in on Skype IDs. There's 3 of them here. There's OO, J Bland, OO. There's also the Paranormal, J Bland, Paranormal Soup Skype ID. There's also the Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat Skype ID. That one's a video one. You actually can see you by video if you call in by that. But call in. Tell us your paranormal story. Have you experienced something like this you felt wasn't your normal run-of-the-mill haunting? Did you live in a place you felt could be special, like a terror in the universe? My experience, when I was talking about the shadow person experience, it wasn't from a haunted house. That I found putting my nose in the wrong place, basically. And these places I do think exist, and entities slip through. They're not demons. There's something more. There's something else. That's what we're going to get into tonight. If you've had that experience, I'd love for you to call in. So let's get back to our guest. Still awake and alive. The ghost didn't get you. Yes.
Yes.
I was thinking. Go ahead.
I've just got a cup of coffee. I hope you don't mind, guys. It's like 5:30 in the morning here. So
I tried to sneak up to get a cup of coffee, but my 2-year-old like made a sound when I went up there. I'm like, oh, close the door, back up. I'm like, nope, don't let him wake up. So I didn't get my cup of coffee, but I'm still here. It's not as late here in America. I was speaking of America, thinking about it. You talked about the incident where this living in this house and having this thing you think was a home invasion. And it pushing on the door. If that would have been in America, that would have been me here in America. The police would have been called because there would have been bullets fired. If I had been in that experience, yeah, I do own a gun, and there would have been bullets fired for sure. And then I would have been that paranormal investigator shoots gun at ghosts story I would never want to be in. But it would have happened. If I would have been, I would not have thought paranormal either. I would have thought a home invasion, and I would probably been shooting right through my door. Because the moment you break in my house and try to push through my door, the gun is out.
I remember it like it was yesterday. It was so terrifying. Your heart's beating in your head, and all I had on was my boxer shorts, and I had a mug.
That's why I don't sleep naked. That's why I don't sleep naked. I'm paranoid like that. If somebody broke in my house or there was a fire, I don't want to be butt naked running, dealing with that.
Well, I will disagree with you. A long time after that, I was living with a young lady, and we had a bit of patch of garden yard out the back, and we heard someone out there. We had a lot of scuffling, and we heard like a phone going, and we thought we heard a door. And since everything, I always have a golf club by the side of the bed, right?
Better than a coffee mug.
Better than a coffee mug. I don't even play golf. I just got a golf club, okay? And I had these big pair of Doc Martens. I put them on, and I went outside, and I had no clothes on. Right, all I had was my nakedness, a golf club, and a pair of boots. Right, because if you see that guy ain't messing around.
Nobody wants to fight with the naked dude.
Exactly. The neighbours were having a party, and one of the boys had been leaning on the wall. He dropped his phone, and he went over the wall to get him, and he couldn't get back up. So his friend wanted to give him a bump up, and it was all very innocent. But they'll never forget seeing a man come out naked in a big pair of boots with a golf club, because no one wants to mess with that guy. If you're going to put on a coat and your trousers, you're thinking too much. You're thinking too much about things. I'd go to jail. If somebody broke into my house, right, I would just whap him in the head with the golf club and go to jail. I'm not taking any chances. Seriously. I just check the back door now. I don't know what's out there. Imagine the woman whose house I'm house sitting comes back early, and she just turns up, and I just throw this boiling hot coffee in her face.
Oh, jeez. That would be bad. But that kind of situation, you live through, you gotta have some little post-traumatic ghost syndrome, from living in that. You haunted you for 10 years. To live in something like that, it does throw everything out the window. And you want to find, like you said, you spent all that time trying to find a rational explanation. Now that it's none of those things are. You've done all this research. You've seen it. And does that? I mean, I don't know if you were a religious person before this. Yeah, I mean, you said the one lady that lived in that house became very spiritual for you. How has that affected you, like on that level? I mean, has it just changed, thrown out everything you used to believe, and you have a new perspective that is on religion? I mean, it's got to change you in many factors, not just your belief in the paranormal, but belief beyond that.
I'm one of the most positive things that happened from this, was that I became a big advocate for mental health. Before that, I was very selfish in terms of career. My goals were money orientated. I was a salesman, and having a mental breakdown and suffering depression and suicidal tendencies is a very humbling experience. And rather than turn into God or anything, I just found worth in self, in that, there's only one real person you can count on in this life, and try and be good, because, I could have been a better person before 2013, and people who knew me then would probably agree. And I've spent the last 5 years trying to encourage people, motivate people, inspire people. I've become an advocate for mental health. A couple of times a year, I take on people with dependency issues, and they do it 2 weeks with me, where the only rule is they can't drink or they can't do drugs. Yeah, if they want to hit me, swear at me, smash up my TV, that's fine. But they can't do it. And I just want to show them what it's like to have 2 weeks sober. And some people have gone 10 weeks, some people have gone 6 months, some people are still sober now. So what I found was that as a person, we have a responsibility and accountability to try and live a good life. Not work, not being an excessive drinker or drug addict or gambler or womanizer or manizer. Is the opposite? I don't know.
I have no idea
what a woman does. And so I was very, very comfortable with the notion that it was a mixture of psychological imbalance and maybe, I knew deep down that it was something different, but I was comfortable to say that I was tetra technology and psychological and heartbreak and I was drinking and this and that. But when you factor in the neighbors had it and people who came to stay, so in a most haunted house, 2 children came to stay and they had an experience, but it was something in the room with them.
How old were they?
They were, in the book, I put them as twin boys to protect their identity, but they were actually 10 and 12 at the time. It was a girl and a boy. But I put them as 2 boys called Eric and Sam, because those were the name of the twins in Lord of the Flies. But they would think that, I just wanted to put, the only thing I've lied about is like...
And twins location. Are creepier.
Twins are creepier. The things I've been, misled people on or lied about, however you want to frame that word, is the names and the exact location, because it's not just me it's affected. It's all very well me writing a book and 60,000 people reading it and coming on shows and making friends like you and Paranormal Postmortem and Jennifer and Kevin Malik and meeting Jamie and Rob and everyone. There's other people involved and they've all dealt with it differently and they closed ranks on me. So I had to deal with this on my own for a very long time. And I kind of pushed it away, and then I'd be interested, and I'd go back to it and revisit it, and then, I ended up trying to kill myself on January the 8th, 2013. And I'm ashamed of that, but people say that's a very selfish thing to do. But when you're in that state, there is nothing. There's no ego, there's no sadness, no anger, no that will teach them. I literally just wanted an escape from this world, and now I embrace this world. Every single day is an opportunity to motivate, inspire, support someone. I don't always get it right, but I try my best. And to have to go back to the house, I had to do it. I had to tell this story. They needed to tell this story because they needed the same catharsis as me. And they wanted explanations. So we'd be sat there and I'm trying to be objective in my interviewing. And they would say, do you know what it felt like to see the angry man? He'd be like, yeah, I know. And it felt so good to them, but someone else could relate. Because say if you're a soldier who's fought on a battlefield, I can't relate to that, but another soldier can. If you're a paramedic, you can relate to other paramedics, right? And victims, survivors, whatever you want to call them, of paranormal events, sometimes it's good for us to get together because there's so much ridicule out there. There's people out there now. I doubt it, to be honest, because your show has always been very paranormal based. People are very logical, but very quite open to it. But they're rational about it. I doubt there's any hardcore skeptics watching this who are like, oh, rubbish, rubbish, rubbish.
No, why waste their time?
Why waste their time? Yeah, it's like I don't watch baseball, so I'm not going to go on a baseball website and say, oh, this is rubbish. But what skeptics have got to remember is that you can actually be hurting someone a hell of a lot by being so skeptical and being so rude. When people just go, oh, what a load of crap, what a load of effing rubbish, what a load of this, you're mad, you're insane. A lot of people don't want to admit they've had a paranormal experience.
Because of that ridicule. Yeah.
Because of that ridicule, because they're scared of people saying it's rubbish. As I said, you quoted me earlier. I can't remember exactly what I said. I don't know if it was something I originated or I've got it from somewhere. But there is not a person alive that knows everything about the universe, the human mind, our psychology. We don't even know enough about our planet. We don't know about stuff in our solar system. Open any book on astronomy, okay, and it will say about Saturn. We don't know. It's a mystery to how the hexagonal things. We think it could be this or that. Nobody knows for sure.
The moon. I mean, we don't even know about the moon. I mean, it shouldn't be there. I mean, I'm a big moon guy. I don't know. I think that's one of the most paranormal things right up in our sky every day, looking at us. You know, nobody really knows.
The moon is tidal locked. The dimensions, it's so much coincidence in a universe. The universe is born of chaos. Okay, it is all chaos. Okay, and everything that is happening is just so much energy, or just probability and causality and reaction. And the fact we hear it all is amazing, okay? But when you've got a moon, which is the exact same distance from us, but it blocks out the sun, and it's tidal locked, it's berserk, and it rings like a bell. They've crashed stuff into it, and it rings like a bell.
Exactly, it's hollow, most likely, or at least has big caverns.
You know, we were talking earlier about why we haven't been back there. Maybe we're not welcome there. Maybe
that's
I'm going off a totally different subject now, but I love this.
It's all right. It's all right. That's what we're about. Paranormal Soup, man.
My next book is about alien abduction.
You told me you were going to do a book on aliens. I've been waiting.
I've 80% done. I've been busy. I had a mini stroke. I've been busy.
I know.
Looking after haunted houses. You know, I've been working, running call centers in India, all this kind of berserk stuff. Okay, but I'm gonna dedicate it to you, Jason. I'm gonna make sure you're in that book. You're in this one as well. You're in the new one. I thank you in this one as well.
Oh well, thank you. It's funny you mentioned that. I had a guest on, Terry Lovelace, who has a great book, is Incident Devil's Den, and it's about a very severe alien abduction, and it made me look deeply at some of the things that happened in my past, and I've been thinking about and looking into things I kind of ignored about my interaction maybe with aliens. I don't know, for a future show.
Definitely.
But you know, there's so many things. I mean, like what it feels like, you know, when you just talk about where you lived and what you went through, it's a paranormal soup. That's what we call it. You know, it could be a whole lot of things going on, not just your average haunted house. You know, when these places that seem to be like tears in the universe, it's like anything's possible. Anything can come through, and the activity is mind-boggling. But it's dangerous. It's what it is. It seems to, my instance with what I encountered was definitely dangerous. It pushed me. It wanted to make me kill myself or hurt someone else. So, and that's the question. What is the motivation for something on the other side to even care about us, or something from another dimension to make us want to do that? You know, where's their motivation? Is it parasitic? There's so many questions and not enough answers. And that's why we have to, your story is important. We have to share these things. We have to compare notes. Speaking of that, we do have somebody on the phone line. Again, guys, you can call in 219-230-4444, Skype ID OOJBland00, or JBland Paranormal Soup. JBland Paranormal Soup. Can't even say my own show name. Those are Skype IDs, or Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat. Right now, we got somebody on one of the Skype lines. I forget which one, but hold on, let me get him on. I think it's the OOJBland00 right now. We got Zach on the line. Let me see. You there with us, Zach?
Hey, Jason.
Said poor connection on my line, or on that line. Are you there with us, Zach?
Yep, I'm here with you, brother. I can hear you.
Okay, you cut out there for a second. All right. Zach's always got great questions. I don't know. Zach's been calling in for a while, but Gavin was a pretty early guest in their show's history. I mean, the show's heading into almost its fourth year. It's 3.5 years old, basically, and it's 3 years coming next week, or a couple weeks from now. It'll be the anniversary. So I don't know if Zach's ever got to talk to Gavin.
Nice to meet you, Zach.
Gavin, very nice to meet you, brother. I just have one question, and then I'll share my own story. Gavin, you described a little bit about this entity that which you described in the quote as God did not create it, but the devil feared it.
That's what that psychic said.
In the course of your investigations, have you found any material in various different religions, like other, like maybe UFO abduction encounters, anything like that, that gives an identity or a name to this entity?
Well, it's an excellent question, Zach. And what I've done is, at the end of the book, I've put something in called Summary of Explanations, right? It's about 40 pages. And it deals with everything from the mundane to the psychological to like the arcane, okay? So you can read about gas, you can read about toxic mold, just little snippets, just so you got enough background. And where I can, I try and add an example, okay? So the one I finish with, because it's the one I don't know, I can't explain it. It just seems to make sense, like it does to Jason, right? The thing I end on is dimensional beings, okay? And everybody's familiar with things like stargates and wormholes and all this kind of stuff, right? So I was looking through, I wanted to find something that I could link it to, okay? And the ancient Egyptians believed that they could summon this entity, okay, that would it would basically like I haven't got the book to hand, okay? My mind isn't as strong as it was, but it basically these entities would come through into our world, and the Egyptians would see them as devils, okay, like demons, and they would absorb people. They would give them as offerings, and they would absorb them and like deposit them out through like this weird, really weird kind of thing. And there are little snippets throughout history of these things. Now, we've labeled them as ghosts and spirits and demons and whatnot. And maybe all of those things exist. Now, me and Jason, last time we spoke, we said that all these things, you can put them into quadrants, yeah? You've got your aliens, you've got your spirits, you've got your demons, you've got this here. What if it's all the same thing?
Right.
What if it's just one thing that is of such a higher level within what we know, because we don't really know very much in the grand scheme of things, all right, that can appear to us in any way, shape, or form it wants to, whether it is a Bigfoot or a lizard man or a dimensional being or something like that. But I can't prove that dimensional beings exist, and I don't think anyone ever will. But if you put me on the hot spot and said, what is it, Gav? I would say there's a tear in our fabric of our reality. There's something seeps through, and we are just a resource, a commodity. We are ants to them. We are bacteria to them. They don't care about us. They don't care that Jason's got sons, or I had a loving relationship, or you've got the rest of your life ahead of you. It is literally there to feed off the negative energy we produce. It sounds absolutely insane, okay? And I can't prove it, but this thing seeps through into our reality. We can't see it. When we talk about attachments, right? Me and Jamie were talking about attachments earlier on, okay?
That's when we had something weird happen.
Yeah, my desk collapsed. We've had someone walk past the window, possibly. I don't know. But maybe I didn't. I'll have a look later when it's daylight. Thing about an attachment, right? Jason said a word earlier on, which was amazing, right? And it's parasitic, okay? Imagine something seeps through. We can't see it. We can't record it. There's no method of seeing it, okay? It's got an intelligence that it can manipulate what we're seeing and feeling, but it has no human agenda or anything we can comprehend, okay? And it enshrouds us. So I could have an attachment which is on me all the time, and I'm depressed, I'm this and that, whatever. I go to a brand new house, and this thing's like, hey, this is where I'm going to start. It doesn't think like that, obviously, but it's like it drops off you, and it just skulks off, and it's like literally hiding in the corner like a spider, invisible, just waiting for a new family. Now, I got asked an amazing question yesterday, and it was like, does everyone have the same experience? And it's like, no, not everyone has the same experience. Sometimes it's more intense, and sometimes it's less intense, and sometimes it does this to certain people because it's like it's hungry. When it's hungry, it'll be more intense, and it would really push all those buttons to get as much of a negative reaction out of people.
Or maybe I have to interject something there though too on that. Maybe it's certain people too that are tastier. You know what I'm saying? You know, like, oh, I don't like, that's not my kind of, I don't like that, you know, but, oh, I like this one. I like this one. They taste good. You know, their energy is the right thing. I've always wondered that could be a factor. Sorry to interrupt, but when you're bringing that up, that's another factor.
Before Zach tells us of his experience, because this is a really good question, right? The woman who lived there before me, I'm so glad this didn't happen to me. And this was after I published Ghost Sex, The Violation, okay? The woman said she kept having this dream that she was going, or this vision, or whatever you want to call it, but she'd go back to the house in its early stages at the turn of the 19th century, or 20th century, I should say. And there was an old woman, which I may have actually had an argument with when I wasn't conscious, but people heard me having an argument with a woman, and I was crying and very upset. And when one of my friends came down, I was fast asleep on the sofa, and there was no one there. I can't explain that because I wasn't there. But the woman said that she saw an old woman in the house as well. And she had a dream that she was back in the house, and she was lying there, but the room was different, okay? And this old woman came into the room, and she undressed, right? And she was naked, a very old woman, all saggy and whatnot, okay?
She couldn't have been hot.
Could have been hot, but unfortunately she wasn't, okay, right? So we've got like old hag syndrome in this.
Right?
God. And for weeks leading up to this, the woman, Anne in the book, as she's called, would wake up. And I don't know if this will make sense to you. Can you remember, I hope it doesn't happen to any of you still, when your granny or your aunt or your mum would, say you're a kid, right, and you got some chocolate in your face, and they'd get a hanky and they'd lick it, right? And you'd
take their thumb and be like, oh, stop.
And you'd have that smell of granny spit, tea and food and cigarette, right? It's just horrible, yeah? It's humming, disgusting, right? This woman, right, Anne, she's waking up for weeks with the taste of granny spit in her mouth. She's there brushing her teeth and doing all this kind of stuff, okay? So one night she has this dream, and this old woman comes in the house and gets on top of it.
Oh my God!
And starts having sex with her like she's a man.
Oh my God! Okay?
So her and her husband aren't getting on. He's sleeping downstairs because he's broken his leg. He hears all this noise upstairs. He goes upstairs, and the woman's having her dream in another time and space. Well, same space, different time, with this old woman on her, dangling her breasts, mounting her, kissing her in the face, whatnot. God. Okay, sorry if your kids are listening, guys. He walked into the room, and he can see his wife in the bed as he knows it, with a dark shadow on top of it.
Oh.
I
got goosebumps to that, man.
You know, and it's just finding different ways. I think another thing it might do is use imagery from what it knows, because it's been in the house, obviously, for 100 years. It's seen all these people come and go. It's seen imaginable cruelty, the child abuse, animal cruelty, incest. And did these people start it in the 1900s, 20th century, sorry? Did they start it? Did they open it and invite it into the world through an occult practice? Or were they the first victims? You know, were they the people that started this? And the house, this thing, this entity uses the imagery that it's got. It's so difficult to explain. I apologize if I'm not explaining it very well. It's just such a difficult concept to get your head around. We're talking about something so far. It'd be like trying to explain to an ant how a car works. That's how advanced this thing is. We are the ants, and they are the people, and we can never ever comprehend what their motive is. Zach, you said you had an experience.
I have, and wow, just everything that you're saying, it's really deep.
Yeah,
it's really deep. I need another sip of wine. Excuse me.
It's a requirement to watch Paranormal Soup for some people.
All right, so I told this story over on Laura Lee's show, but I'll tell it to you now. Time. I lived back in central Pennsylvania when I was a kid. That's where I'm originally from. And the house that my family lived in had a lot of activity, to say the very least. Well, one night, I was about 7 or 8 years old. I had a dream that I was in a field and everything was dead. It was gray. I picked up a flower and it crumbled in my hand, fell apart. I saw a tree. It was decaying. It was the worst thing I ever saw. Well, off in the distance, I see this large black mass. The only way I could describe it. And it was coming towards me. And from that mass, I heard multiple voices crying out for help. And it wasn't just an outright shouting, but it was a very just slow, very eerie sound. It sounded almost like, help. But there were male and female voices, and they were all just crying for help. And I woke up out of the dream, and I still hear the voices just all around me in my bedroom.
Not good.
Just all these voices crying for help. And the only thing I could think of is that I ran out of my bedroom. I go down the hall to where my parents' room is at. And as I'm going down the hallway, I can still hear the voices around me crying out for help. I grab their door and I close it. And all the voices stop. I would say among all of my paranormal experiences that I've had, that one had to be the most frightening. And when Gavin was describing this entity, that it was a parasite, it would feed off negativity, it would promote negativity, whatever it is, it almost sounded like this very thing that I saw. Haven't seen it since then, but since you were bringing up the topic of that, I wanted to share that story.
It sounds, when you describe it, there's a classic Art Bell thing that he used to play, is the sounds of hell from Siberia, from them drilling down like 1,500 feet or something like that. They're like really deep down, and they got these sounds of hell, and it's all these people screaming and crying out for help. That's what I picture or hear in my head when you describe it. So I got the goosebumps from your story too. Thanks a lot. No, that was a great story. Experience. Sorry, not story. I hate calling it a story because it's an experience you had. And thank you, Zach, for sharing that.
How,
there's no problem with it.
Well, before you go, Zach, you just gave me an idea then, Jason, which I haven't explored in the book at all. What if this thing isn't from another dimension? What if it isn't from a tear in the fabric of our reality? What if it's something seeping through from like a hollow earth kind of theory? Now, I know we're going wild.
I've thought of that.
Let's explore it.
I thought of that.
Let's explore it.
Not crazy at all.
Nope.
Because the thing with Zach is, okay, right? If Zach or I or many other people went to the doctor, right, and said, I'm having these dreams and this is happening, and I can hear people, they're going to medicate us, they're going to label us as mental health issues, okay? You can't say insane or anything like that, but mental health issues, okay? And they'll just start medicating you, okay? So you're medicated, living in this very real threat and danger with not the facilities to deal with what you're doing. And the people the man who lived in the house before the couple did 1989, he died in the house. He literally just died of a wasting disease. And I don't know how long he lived there, but he died there. And what if something like that happened? There's an amazing part to this story, okay? And it's not really going to be that relevant to America, but if anyone from Pembrokeshire is, right? The people in the house kept a box of evidence, okay? They kept tape recorders, and one night they had a Polaroid camera, and while the woman was in bed, he took a picture of her, and coming out the bed was the face of an old man, and it was the face of the old man who lived there before. Okay, they kept all the evidence, and when they moved, the box went missing. So someone in Pembrokeshire or someone somewhere has a box of tapes.
Let's hope.
And that is the holy grail of this, because that's the holy grail of my experience, of her experience, of Zach's experience, your experiences, the Polaroids, the tapes, everything. And I would just love to get my hands on that box. You know, if I ever became a millionaire, I'd literally say, if you got that box, here's £1 million. You know, I would literally, that's what I would do. Because,
I can see why it'd be so important. Well, thank you, Zach, for calling in. I know somebody else was trying to call in a minute ago, but thank you so much for calling in and sharing that story.
Keep in touch, Zach.
Hey, brother, it's no problem. Absolutely, Gavin, I will. Thank you so much for answering my question, man.
Yeah, keep in touch.
Thank you so much.
You know, get in touch with me. It'd be nice to keep in touch, see how you get on.
All right,
absolutely,
Zach.
bro.
Have a good night, man.
All right, have a good night, man.
You know, one of the things, too, I thought about, we're talking about, you know, being parasitic. And anybody, the phone lines are open, 219-230-4444, Skype ID, JBland, Skype ID, JBland, Paranormal Soup, or Soup Live Chat, 800 Live Chat. Those are all the Skype IDs you can call in. The lines are open. But what I was thinking about, I had a guest on, thanks to Kevin and Jennifer Malik from Paraversal Universe on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, plug. They got me a really good guest I had not long ago, Terrence Palmer, who studies spiritual possession. He has a book, The Science of Spiritual Possession. And we got into the topic of, almost got to answer my phone there, of the parasitic entities. That's what he'd find. He does kind of a regression hypnosis with patients, sometimes remotely, a lot of times remotely, but they walk people through these stages and they find out what's affecting them. Is it demonic? Is it this? But they'd find these parasitic entities. And one of the things he said that really puts just gives me the willies, is the idea these parasitic entities use us as hosts and impregnate our etheric field with these eggs that will hatch new entities. That we're like a host for reproduction. And man, that gave me the willies just thinking about that.
Well, I'm really going to freak you out now, Jason, because when Rose, the medium, went to the house and it basically broke her, one of the images she saw was of an old lady in amongst this stuff, this mass, and she was vomiting and birthing from a these more black mass. And she said in amongst this, she said it wasn't anything she could describe. It was darker than dark, and within it you could just see. And all I could think of, right, because I couldn't comprehend it. It wasn't enough detail for me to imagine it or create a picture. But what it reminded me of, have you seen the movie Aliens? It's my favorite movie.
Oh, yes. I played it. Did you hear earlier?
Yeah. We were on a 5
profile.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
5 by 5.
Oh, yes. Huge Aliens fan.
And they go, I went to the 30th anniversary at Royal Albert Hall, and James Cameron, Gail Ann Hurd, and Sigourney Weaver took a bow at the end. And it's oh my God, because they weren't announced to do that. That was cool. Do you remember the bit when the Marines go into the reactor and all the community, all the townspeople are in the wall? Yes. And there's that one woman.
Kill me!
Kill me! That's what I just imagine. Obviously it wasn't the physical remains of the people lived in the house, but it was their essence, their souls. And what if that's the real end game? It doesn't. This is just like a carcass, right?
Right.
What you said,
that's what gives me the willies.
Our soul. So this woman said something really nasty, worse than hell, was waiting for her when she died. And she only had experience. She only communicated with this thing for a small amount of time. She saw its true identity. She used all her powers, all her gifts and abilities to get a glimpse of it, okay? Whereas myself and the girl I lived with and the other people in my experience, and then the people from 1989, all the other ones, we lived it, but we didn't really see it. We only saw bits of it.
Right.
You know, we experienced it. And it's always worried me of I'm not a religious person. I'm not particularly a spiritual person, but it is something I'm going to look into I feel drawn towards spirituality. But like, what's waiting for me? Because I've had exposure to this thing as well.
You feel that it could affect what happens to you when you move to the other side, that it's still going to get you in a way.
My essence could be tied to the touch. Now, this is my physical being. Since 2013, even though I've been like really excited and I've tried to lead a very good life, there's sometimes I feel very difficult to feel happy. Like, I feel very disconnected from some things. I've got a beautiful girlfriend. I love her so much. And I tell her all the time I love her. But I tell her some days I feel very disassociated from certain things in life. Like the magazine. Now, everyone's saying, oh, man, it's amazing. And it's like, I don't feel connected to the magazine. It just happened. I worked on it and it happened. And there wasn't that great feeling of satisfaction. Now, some people could say that was the mini stroke or something like that. But there's this little bit in my back of my mind.
Right, it makes you wonder. Hold on to that what if. Hold on to that what if, though, because I have two different people on hold right now. We got the phone lines blowing. I got them waiting. So let's get them on, because we're gonna have the last commercial break coming on. So we got on the Skype line, we got Laura Lee on. Let me get the volume up. How you doing tonight, Laura Lee?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Doing good. This is Laura Lee for Angel Rock Radio on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for taking my phone call. Wow, Lee, you've got quite the stories, and the magazine looks beautiful.
Thank you very much. Thank you for calling in as well.
Well, I'm calling in because how I met Jason, actually, he's been a big help. I tell everybody about Jason's show because we've lived through quite the story with the paranormal in our home. And you were talking about what if ghosts find people tasty or their energy, and it got me thinking about calling in because we have 4 main entities here, but how this started was with a dream for me, and identified itself as demonic. It identified itself by name, spelt its name, identified its animal form. And I work with angels. I'm actually a nurse, and it's funny we're speaking about not being particularly spiritual or anything. That's the only thing that's actually made this better is working as a psychic medium now and following this path. But I guess my question is, what happens when you've been living in a house like this? I've been in this house 22 years, and all this just really started out of nowhere after this dream. The dream was probably about 11, 12 years ago, and there's still activity here. But the only thing that's made it better is the family pulling together and raising our vibrational energy, if you will. Because there's still activity here. People can see, what's here. I've got pictures. Actually, I sent you some pictures. So you'll be able to see it on Messenger. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I will tell you lastly, the part about the dream that I had, somebody had asked me for some information, not this summer, the summer before, asking they'd had a dream and been given a name, and I looked it up, and there, lo and behold, was the exact spelling, exact everything I had been told in my dream, right there on paper in front of me. No idea why it's here either. There's actually 4 main entities here. So you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's what Jason was saying earlier about it's a paranormal soup. And, one of the things I was thinking as you were saying that, because this is a brand new concept to me, and, I'm a self-educated guy, and what I know is what I know. And I was thinking what I thought was really, really interesting when you very kindly shared your story was about the families pulled together, and maybe as you said, about creating good vibrations. Maybe that's a literal thing. Maybe a frequency or a harmony makes it difficult for these things to latch on. Now, in terms of if I was a particular religious person, maybe this entity would try and attack me through the demonic or the angelic kind of way, because that's something I can identify to, something I'm vulnerable to. Maybe if I was particularly skeptical and scientific approach, maybe they would appear as aliens. Do you know what I mean? And, maybe the fact that your family are resisting or not tasty, or maybe you guys have like the magic bullet, that stops these things taking hold. That is having to work extra hard for you. Now, someone said to me, well, if there's something negative that can tear through the veil, why can't something positive come through? Something that just feels a natural inclination to shepherd us, okay? So maybe you've got the negative coming in. Maybe there's like this unholy, that's probably the wrong word. Maybe there's like this huge war, this battle between a negative and positive energy. And we're just the casualties, we're just the cannon fodder stuck in the middle. And maybe you've got a positive energy that has seeped through as well, which is working in reverse to what the negative is actually trying to protect you. Now, Whitley Strieber, who wrote Communion, his wife, Anne Strieber, sadly died a couple of years ago. And Whitley, very quickly, he went off air for a little bit and he was upset, and he came back and he was very positive. And he said that Anne had communicated with him and he felt really good and he got over his grief, and he was very assured that Anne had communicated with him. And she had told him that all dotted throughout the universe are soul factories, right? And it's literally a world where people are create souls so that these whole souls could go off and do whatever souls do, okay? And she said that our world was a soul factory. And that was why human beings had a consciousness, why we populated so quickly, why we had a certain lifespan, okay? So maybe us as a soul factory, which is another theory in itself, in the cosmos, there's something out there that just feeds on souls, okay? And that's what this dimensional entity is. And then maybe there's something that needs these souls to populate the universe and is trying to protect us at the same time. That's just a theory I've just had. I don't know if Jason got anything you think about all of this.
No, it's along my lines of thought about what's going on here. Maybe I'm a Gnostic, so I question everything, but I'm a spiritual Gnostic. I believe in another side and other realities and dimensions. So it's along the realms of my ideas of what might be going on.
I'd have to. You're not the first that's brought that up, and I'd have to agree. We're everybody in the home has been raised baptized Roman Catholic, and now I just identify with being spiritual, but I really believe in energy. I also do a lot of I'm a medical intuitive, and you know what, that's what made a lot of sense when you raise your vibration and you're no longer a match. We live in this 3D existence. I believe everything's energy coming from a science basis. It just made sense to me when you've got a lower vibrational energy trying to connect with you. And I have to agree with you, I do have some pictures actually of higher vibrational things sort of on the upper floors where there's not so much activity. So it's funny you said that, because I've heard that before because we've talked to people all over the world looking for help, and eventually, like I said, the only thing that's made it better, and not that the family was fractured, I don't mean that, but it just seems to attack from every avenue.
It knows your weaknesses.
Yeah.
It'll exploit a weakness.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
If
I do have.
Sorry, Jason, carry on, please.
I say, Laura Lee, I am going to let you go, though, because I do got somebody else waiting on hold. It's been waiting, too.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call.
Laura Lee.
I will,
Laura
for
Lee,
sure.
Get in touch with me. We'll follow this up. Thank you very much for calling.
She has her own show.
No
You
problem.
should be a guest on.
Thanks so much. Great show, and thanks for taking my call.
She has her own show, Gavin. You should be a guest on.
I'd love to have you on there. I'll get in touch with you after the show. Thanks. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
What a nice lady.
Yeah, Laura Lee's awesome, and we could definitely go a lot longer talking to her about what she's got in her experiences. But I have somebody else on hold I want to get to too here. Who do we have on the phone line right now?
Oh, it's Tyler. How you guys feeling today?
Hey, how you doing, Tyler? I know you've had some of your own experiences.
Oh man, I have so many. I can write so many books, but I can't really put it all in words. I need an author to get my ideas on the pages. So I try creative writing, and
well, you're speaking to an author right now. You got
kind of mad a couple times, so
and a publisher. So
I passed.
Get some work done. Get it to me. We'll see what we can do for you.
Yeah, I dated a girl that lived in front of a cemetery. And I'm actually originally from Wisconsin, and you said you had some friends that lived there.
Yep, Kevin and Jennifer Malik.
I ironically met somebody that lived in that town that I seen what I call the ghost dog. Me and this girl was coming into town. It's on Highway 14. We're coming to town, and I get this sharp light coming on the side of the car, and it rushed, and it had hair, and it looked like a dog. But I heard no thud or nothing. And me and her screamed on top of our lungs. And I heard a story about a bunch of kids constantly dying on that, and there's a lot of deaths on that. And I've always wondered, because there's a cemetery at the beginning, and there's a cemetery at the end.
You got a good point.
I've always wondered if that was a connection to that town.
I'm gonna let Gavin answer here in a second because we're gonna have a commercial break. But I do want to point out something I've been thinking about all night about these rifts and these entities. Is my experience, my shadow person experience, where I encountered this thing wasn't a home or a place. It was a place where a number of people, kids, mainly kids, had been killed on these train tracks in a spot. It's like these tragedies, these deaths, I've always felt were like some kind of they made the tear in the universe. And you think about ancient times, people did a lot of blood sacrifices. Think about the Mayans. Think about what they were trying to make these blood sacrifices to entities. What doorways were they ripping open through death? What doorways does it open when somebody dies, and especially in a gruesome way? That's what I wonder about. Sorry, I had to add that in there. Go ahead, Gavin.
And I was grateful to Jason because there was no other car. I could have lost my wife because she swerved.
Yeah, well, I had that incident too with the shadow person. Years later, I had an incident with my wife. We saw a shadow person on the road, and then all the lights went out. Everything was black for like 5 seconds. Like I thought I was having a stroke, Gavin. Everything was dark, but my wife had the same thing, and she was driving. So that was a time I almost got killed by one of these things. So go ahead, Gavin.
Well, was it Tyler? Thank you for calling in, Tyler. That's very interesting account there. Like, Jason, what I like about moments like this, talking to people, it's what I do mainly. I talk to people, and when I come on radio shows and shows like this, is that as people are talking and sharing experiences, you start to think, oh my God. And then Jason just said then about when people die, especially tragically or horribly or in pain or suffering or trauma, it might open a rift, and it could be like blood to a shark,
right?
Yeah. So that's why, like, say, an asylum or a prison or an old morgue or something, it tends to be haunted rather than like a new build, because there's been more trauma, there's been more death there that has opened up this rift. And all these things, right? Ghosts, demons, aliens, dimensional beings, Bigfoots, they could all be different classifications of beings and experience, okay? When you think about how diverse our planet is, like a human being doesn't look like a squid doesn't look like a cat, a cat doesn't look like an ant, and when you think about how diverse we are as a planet, there's nothing to say that there isn't a diverse range of other unexplainable entities out there. Like shadow people, the new one is black-eyed kids, and I always call them the black-eyed peas, but that's something totally different. Tyler, what did you say you saw? Because your line was a bit fuzzy. What did you say you saw in the road?
I saw coming on the coming from the other lane, actually running in, and I just caught it in the corner of my eye. And it wasn't there no more. It wasn't there, and it was dead on in front of the headlights.
But I thought you said you shot it was like
attention to where, and I just looked, and she just glanced at it too, and I'm like, we stopped the car and we looked around for this thing. There was nothing around. Could have been a coyote or something, but it was huge. It was bigger than a wolf.
It was like a creature, though. It was like a dog-like creature, kind of. Yeah,
it was. And I talked to a a gal through a group that I'm part of that just recently, and she's from that town, and I asked her about that, and she's like, yeah, there's a lot of deaths on there, and there's actually 7, 8 accounts of that ghost dog. Like, people see this thing, and I don't know.
Maybe it's a shark in water.
It was actually in back of her yard, and I checked it out, and like, what, it's abandoned, and no one takes care of it, and it was kind of sad. But
well, thank you, Tyler, for calling in.
Something creepy on that.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if it's the shark in the water smelling the blood that's come through and you see that beast. Well, thank you, Tyler, for calling in. We got to go to our last commercial break. Thank you so much for sharing that story. That was pretty creepy.
Get a dash cam. Drive that road again. Get a dash cam.
Yeah.
Get in contact with Kevin Malik.
I live so many miles away now, man. I live in Oklahoma, so when I heard that, I'm like, man, I want to go investigate this really bad.
Get the road to Jennifer. Get the road where it's at to Kevin and Jennifer Malik. Maybe they'll go investigate it. Scooby, do it for us, guys. Let us know. All right, we're going to go to a commercial break. Thanks so much, Tyler, for calling in. Don't forget, guys. Don't forget, we're on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Donate, subscribe, do what you can to keep this great network going. Without you, we wouldn't have all these great shows and all these great hosts. Like Laura Lee that called in just a few minutes ago. Go check it out, Angel Rock. And Kevin and Jennifer Malik, Paraversal Universe. So many good shows. Check them out on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. All right, guys, we're going to be back with our guest after this commercial break. It's only a couple minutes long. Gavin Lee Davies. We're going to talk, maybe we'll get a little bit into more about the ghost sex, because I have some stuff I want to, I'm thinking really hard. There's so much I want to talk about, but I'm thinking about that I can't get the hag description out of my head, that woman and what was happening to her. It's like still in my head right now. It goes back to my innate fear of one of the first horror movies I ever watched, The Shining, and Jack Nicholson in a bathroom, and I freaked me out as a kid. So it's all I keep thinking about. We have to talk about that a little bit more when we come back from this commercial break. All right, guys, we'll be right back.
This city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion.
What do you mean, biblical?
What he means is Old Testament, Mr. Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, we've been talking to Gavin Lee Davies, author of This Most Haunted House, The Haunted Horror of Haverford West, still butchering that name, and Ghost Sex, The Violation. A lot of topics we've discussed tonight. If you're just joining us late, definitely going to want to go back and listen to this one when it's up in the archive. But you can call in. We'll still take phone calls at 219-230-4444 or Skype IDs 00JBland00. J Bland Paranormal Soup, or Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat. Those three Skype lines. You can call in, tell us about your paranormal experience, or give Gavin a question. This man's been through a lot. He's seen a lot, enough to make him believe, like I have, my own experience. These themes, they scar you a little bit, or a lot, and they change your perception of reality. Most people go through their days, they don't see the things me and Gavin have seen. And they don't understand why our perception of reality is the way it is. To us, anything could be possible. There could be a tear in the universe. There could be aliens using us as hosts, laying etheric eggs that are hatching. All kinds of things that make your skin crawl, you know. But these are the things, we're special in our paranoia of all the things possible that could be around us that we don't see. It's creepy to me. So let's get back to our guests. Welcome back, Gavin. So, we're talking about the hag. The hag is still with me here, still thinking about it. Because when I was a kid, I saw that scene in The Shining. Jack Nicholson goes into the bathroom. It's a beautiful woman coming out of a shower. He's a married man. He don't care. They're having marriage problems. And he totally gets up on that woman, and he gets his just desserts, and she turns into a horrible hag that scarred me because it reminded me of a face of the green glowing head a little bit too. Maybe that's why I was so frightened because of some of the experiences I already had as a kid. But when I saw that, it stuck with me. I had nightmares about that hag from The Shining. So what it brings me to is something that's been around in paranormal for thousands of years is the succubus. Yes. Or the incubus, that these things that feed off of sexual energy. And that's obviously what was happening to this woman, in my opinion, this experience. But it's like, it's not just sex. This thing's got the kinky side. It wants sex and fear. It's not just some beautiful woman, or it would have been a man for her. It would have been maybe a pleasurable experience. This thing wants your sexual energy, but it wants your fear. It wants it all in one big cupcake.
Well, the weird thing was with this, how we kind of made sense of it was that Anne was almost like she was seeing the world from night. Oh, there she is. How many beers? Call in with how many beers you would need to do the deed with that lady. I remember seeing it when I was a kid, and I was
scarred me.
Going on? Yeah, it was a bit. Yeah, she's all right. I've seen worse.
That's sad if you have. Maybe at Walmart.
I used to be an alcoholic,
Yeah.
You knew.
We have a Walmart in America. I think I might have seen worse there, but go ahead.
The weird thing was that Anne would see the event through the eyes of someone else, right? And now this is where it gets really weird. So if this story isn't weird enough for you, okay, there's lots and lots of weird things in the book. We haven't talked about the man with the dog's head. We haven't talked about the shadow man coming through the house. We haven't talked about that. It's all in the book, okay? When Anne made her final trip back in time, she walked in and the mother was performing fellatio on what was her son, who was a man in his 30s.
Oh, my God. You just had to go there.
I didn't go there.
She did. Wow.
And it's so difficult to comprehend. As I said, I'm not a scientist. There's a bit in the book, right, when I've just visited the psychic medium's grave, which I'm not allowed to disclose because she didn't do it for fame or anything like that.
Right.
And maybe there's no family to give me permission. And, it's one of those things where people say, oh, well, we can never prove it. And I stood there looking at this woman's grave thinking, I'm not capable of deciphering all of this. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a detective. I'm just a guy from Pembrokeshire. I'm dyslexic. I'm a self-educated guy. I know what I know. I watch WWE wrestling and I love the paranormal, okay? And trying to make sense of this is so hard. And it's great. This is why this is great. This is why Paranormal Soup is great. And Rob and Jamie and Kevin and Jennifer and all your listeners and all your viewers and all the people who call in is great, right? Because the more we talk about it, we all give little ideas. It's like, yeah, that sounds great. It's a
little pieces of the puzzle, as I call it.
All pieces of the puzzle, right? And I was there and I was stood at the grave just feeling totally inept and like no scientist would try and make sense of this. If I'm not a person who makes sense of it. None of us can, right? Because it's dealing with stuff beyond our comprehension, okay? But one of the things that was happening was that Anne was viewing through the eyes of one of the people that lived in the house in 1900 or around that date. And he was having an incestual relationship with his very, very, very elderly mother.
Oh, my God, dude. Oh.
The children were like blindfolded and they were locked away. And then you start to think, were they a cult? Because there's no record of this family. And at that time, the house was empty. It was owned by a businessman in London, okay? And, were these people immigrants? Why were they in hiding? There's no record of 4 people dying in that house. Could have been
squatters.
Could have been squatters because she did see that the windows had been boarded up and there was shafts of light coming through, okay? And the house was in disrepair. The paint was already peeling off the walls and all these different things, okay? So why would the entity want them to see what it was like? But as you said, sex and fear, that is two of the base human instincts. Everyone has a need to reproduce at some stage, and fear is what keeps us going. The reason we worry so much is that when we were coming out the caves, everything was killing us. It'd be like, hey, Jason, eat them berries. Jason's dead. Hey, Jason, go and stroke that lovely dog. Oh, it's a wolf. Has killed him. Go and drink that water. Oh, it's full of a virus. Everything was killing us, right? So you'd find an attachment with a mate, and you'd have an offspring, and you'd have that maternal paternal instinct to nurture and love it. The next day, everyone's dead. Like there's been a flash flood, of trees falling on them, and we've got this natural instinct to worry and be fearful. Okay, and as you said, it's feeding off it. But unfortunately for me, I've become known as a ghost sex guy because pretty much everything I touch turns into some kind of ghost sex story or experience. I wrote the book Ghost Sex Violation. Death threats galore. It's called Ghost Sex.
Wow.
It's called Ghost Sex. It's about ghosts and sex. What did you expect? And fundamental Christian groups going, "Oh, you're going to burn in hell. We're going to flay you, and we're going to crucify you. We're going to do this." And I'm like, "What order is this going to happen in? Because you've already killed me, so the rest doesn't really matter anymore, is it?" One woman wrote an 8-page condemning email about all the things she was going to do to me, and then wrote at the end, "But it was very well written." Well, there you go. I'll take the positive. I'll take the positive from all of this. Okay. So it was very interesting for me, but also like, oh my God, that a ghost sex incident was brought up, and it's making me think maybe there's more to this ghost sex thing at all. And you just hit the nail on the head.
Yes.
Sex is an important part. We wouldn't exist. We would not exist. None of us would be here if there's some form of sex hadn't taken part. Okay. And whenever the ghost sex subject comes up, I'm like, oh my God. Now, in the UK, it's really, really popular at the moment because people are going on TV and saying that they're marrying a ghost. One woman's become a lesbian and has had sex with a lesbian ghost on an aeroplane. So she joined the Mile High Club, which is amazing. And I've got an amazing friend. I doubt she'll be listening at this time of morning, but she'll probably listen to the replay. Her name's Jackie Devoy, and she's a journalist for national newspapers, and she's always on the phone. Gav, I've got another ghost sex story. Gav, give me a quote. And I've become the ghost sex guy. And that book you just flashed up there, I didn't even want to write it. My book was going to be about imaginary children and how they're probably ghosts, right? So this is beyond this is before the whole dimensional thing. It is, and there is some books. There's some great books out there. Kylie Holmes wrote one called Intuitive Children, and But They Can See Spirit and all. So she beat me to it, and it's an excellent book. It's absolutely superb, okay? So I ended up writing a book about ghost sex, spending a long time interviewing those people. And that was horrendous. That was absolutely horrendous. Now, if anyone's like, oh, I'm going to go and read that, and I'm going to pleasure myself while reading it, good luck.
Good luck. You're going to be crying in the corner is what you're going to be doing.
One of the redeeming factors, or one of the key moments of my life, was a woman read my book, Ghost Sex a Violation, and then wrote, I don't know what you would call it, an homage, and called it Ghost Sex 13 Shades, right? And made a book about pleasurable ghost sex and dedicated it to me. And this woman is a former porn star, and it's called Ghost Sex 13 Shades by Gladys Truman. And at the beginning, she's going, I read Ghost Sex, the Violation, and why is all ghosts horrible? And she wrote 13 stories about ghosts, okay, having sex. One of them is about sexting with a Ouija board, which I thought was very inventive. One's about a 5-foot woman having sex with Bigfoot. I don't know how that's even going to happen. And apparently Bigfoot smells like basil, okay? And there's 13 stories. So not only do I have women going to the local papers every week saying they've been having sexual relations with a ghost, I had a book dedicated to me about people having sex with Bigfoot.
It's like your book is definitely like, the very dark bondage don't want to go there. Horrible, life-changing experience. And her book is like, well, here's the positive ghost sex experience. Is that kind of what she tried to show the positive? Yeah, I just don't think it's positive. I think it's probably not a good idea. I don't know. I just thought that about anybody who wants to openly have a relationship sexually with a ghost. Maybe not. Maybe not a good idea. I'm just saying. Maybe not. But sex is energy. And just like death is a doorway, the ending of life. What is sex but the beginning of life? For sometimes when we do create a new life, it's done through sex. So it's another way of possibly that energy opening a doorway.
I produce a huge amount of energy in that 30 seconds.
It's like the Big Bang.
It's something like, people say to me, the skeptics really attack me about the ghost sex phenomena. They really, really attack me. And I'm like, it's a phenomenon. People believe it's happening the same way as people think they've been scratched, they've been pushed, they're having dreams.
It's one of the oldest reported phenomenons. If you think about it, like I said, the succubus, the incubus, and different cultures have these kind of beings that fed off of people sexually, attacked them sexually. The old hag. How many different cultures have the old hag as the succubus, I mean, how many? I mean, there's a ton. That old hag has violated many men and women.
And women, well, funny you should say about men. Like, in Ghost Sex Violation, I spent a period of time with a woman that I've called Lisa in the book, and she claimed she had been molested by an incubus, is the male one, and a ghost, and a spirit, and they were fighting over it. Now, there's obviously going to be comparisons with the Doris Biver case from California, which was the entity. But there's also a very, very dark haunting, and it really took it out of me. I felt very, very ill after doing it, and the skeptics attacked me, and maybe the choice of name Ghost Sex was maybe a bit too sensationalized, but 6,000 people read it in 4 weeks, and it just created this storm. Like, the entity is the original, obviously it's been going on all the way back, but the entity kind of popularized it, and then I kind of brought it back into fashion, and somebody will probably do it again in 20 years. But in Ghost Sex Violation, there's also about 4 or 5 different accounts from other people, like shorter accounts. And one of them is a guy who picked up a beautiful young lady, and she asked him to pull over in his car. And
it's like every man's dream right here, right?
Yeah, she was gorgeous, and while they were participating in the act of fornication, she turned into an old hag, and he was terrified. And he described it was like he was making love to sandpaper. I
remember this one, yeah.
Yeah. And then what's not in the book, which is on the website, theparanormalchronicles.com, was one guy, and they're just normal people. And to be a man to admit this and not want any publicity or media exposure or get a book or a film off it, a guy contacted me. He described himself as like a 6'2", 300-pound, African-American Philadelphian man. He said he wasn't even asleep. He had just got into bed when the old hag pounced on him and took his seat. And he reckons he was awake. I've had a woman who's a yoga teacher since she was thrown on the floor, a jogger's yoga kit ripped off, and she was awake. And in Ghost Sex Violation, right, it's a haunting. There are 4 or 5 particularly very gruesome scenes involving rape, sexual molestation. It's a very, very difficult read. Don't go into reading Ghost Sex Violation and think this is an easy read. It's not, okay? One scene a lot of people just can't get past, and that's the bit when the son, who was 18, went upstairs.
That's a hard
and his
one.
Mother, that's a hard one. And she's floating above the bed with her arm behind her back, and she's being violated in the most horrendous way imaginable. So whatever you can imagine, that's probably what it is in the book, right? And a lot of people just stop there. And it's not just women, it's men as well. And in the book, I brought in a psychologist because I felt very ill-equipped. And we go through all the different theories from there's a theory condition called sex omnia, where people have sex in their sleep. Whether you're performing it on yourself or there was a very, very famous rape case, and they could prove that it was sex omnia. Yeah, he did it unknowingly, and it just happened, okay? And then you got sleep paralysis, and then severe hormonal, when a lady is what's the polite way of saying on her period? I've said it now.
You just said it.
Yeah. Said it now. I don't know what it is.
Menstruation.
I'm a 43-year-old guy. On a cycle, there's been some cases, but it's been so severe and flooded the brain with so many chemicals and hormones that people have hallucinated and seen people in the room, felt people on top of them. So with my work, I'll always try and present something rational. That's not just to appease the skeptical community. I'm not worried about them, but I just think it's fair to everyone out there that you get a balance of it. Because if I say this is real, believe it, eat this is real, it's not fair, because it might be something you might read it and go, do you know what? Toxic mold syndrome. That makes sense to me. Or it could be like me and Jason. We were like, do you know what? We really think that there's a dimensional rift and stuff's coming in. Because I finished the book with maybe, I don't want to fearmonger, maybe it's a prelude to some kind of invasion.
Dimensional invasion.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, well, if there's a food source here, or reproductive source, or both for some other dimensional entity, and those rips are open, how they're going to keep ripping those rips? They're going to make them bigger. There's got to be more. I mean, what would happen? I mean, I honestly, my experience I had with the shadow person, there wasn't anything sexual in that, but. Sure? I'm pretty sure, yeah. It went out. It was definitely fear. It fed on fear and just plain fear and anger. I mean, that's all I could say. It wanted to scare me, make me feel like the worst thing in the world, but it also made me want to be angry and hurt people or hurt myself. I mean, I've always felt, yes, a lot of people are like, well, that's demonic. Well, I felt it was something more than that. I felt it was something beyond that. I'm not a Christian, maybe that's why. But I felt its purpose, it was an entity to feed on that. That's what it wanted. It knew darn well, it wanted misery, death, anything that was just as negative as possible. That's what it fed on.
Yeah, and I can concur with that, because I have felt the exact same feelings. Now, rationalists will snigger and say, well, that's just psychological maladies, depression, anxiety, chemical imbalance, hormones. Who knows? Maybe they're right, okay? But there's more and more people coming forward, whether it's ghost sex, alien abductions, this, that, or whatever. You're a rational guy. Me and you have got into this because of things that have happened to us. Yeah? Your callers that call in, it's because something's happened to them. The people who are listening and watching now is because they are listening because something's happened to them and they're trying to make sense of it. Exactly. Now, maybe one day a scientist will come on TV and say, the reason we've all been seeing ghosts is because of this. And we'll all just say, yeah, fair enough. But until that moment, I think we need to be very open-minded. We have to be prepared. So I'm not a spiritualist. I'm not gifted. I'm not a medium. Maybe we do all need to start protecting ourselves, because if you go to the doctor and he medicates you and you then go back in the environment, you're more vulnerable than you were to begin with. So therefore, you're going to be harvested and absorbed by whatever's going on. But at the same time, if we tell everyone, oh, yeah, it's definitely ghosts, definitely aliens, definitely dimensional being, they might actually have a mental health condition, not go to the doctor,
right,
and then end up harming themselves or someone else. It is such a tough thing. I think skeptics and believers, we need to start working together, because we don't know enough about our universe, we don't know enough about our will, we don't know enough about our mind to be so sure. And I think some skeptics are just scared.
That's what I've always felt.
Deep down, they've got a little nagging voice. I can't believe that aliens sit up in spaceships and they take us off. And
I'll lose my what if that's really real. Like I think down to the core. I'm not trying to call them scaredy cats, but some of them I do. I really feel like some of the people I just average day, not your professional skeptics, but people that are just completely skeptical of everything. I find when you get just right down to it, they can't believe that, because they wouldn't go to sleep at night if they did.
Yeah, and they're entitled to it. All of this is based on pretty much everything to do with, religion, mythology, the paranormal, things of that nature, is based around our fear of death, okay? We cannot accept that we possibly are just evolved apes that will just die and rot in the ground, and that is it, game over, okay? And
to me, that's a scary thought.
That's the most terrifying thought. But all of this is just what it is, and it'll all be forgotten in the sands of time, like tears in rain, as they say in Blade Runner. And maybe that's all that is. It's just that we just
actually play that clip on here. I didn't play it tonight, but I did play that.
Yeah,
I do play that clip.
My favorite movie ever. But at the same time, what's not to say that our mythology, all the seeds that have made us who we are, isn't based on some truth? You know, we could do a whole show about ancient aliens and Sumeria and our Bible and Adama and all these kind of stuff, okay? And maybe that's what we should do. What we should do is, right, we should do a round table right here in Paranormal Soup. Get a few of us, okay? All different people from all over the world, different theories. And people just call in. Maybe you pick topics out of the hat and we just give our opinions on them. That would be a great show.
Paranormal Soup. Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome. I haven't done too many roundtable episodes, but I've been wanting to. It'd be great to get that together. I get so booked so far in advance with guests, but it's something I wanted to do. You know, a paranormal soup of people, and we can't go another 3 years before having you on again.
I'm not. Do you know what? I want to come back. I've really enjoyed tonight. It's been amazing, absolutely superb, and it's opened my mind as well. And I'm not here to offend anyone. If I have offended you, it's not my intention. If you're a skeptic or a believer, as long as you're thinking about it, and you know, a skeptic is trying to prove that it's rational. Believers are trying to believe it's true. Let's all just work together and see what we come up with. Because I got a feeling there's a hell of a lot more to this world than what we think we know. A hell of a lot. Things we can't comprehend. I've experienced it. Jason's experienced it. Tyler, Zach, Lillian, probably
Lori
Lee. Sorry, Lori.
It's all right. It's late.
Jamie and Rob, you know, we've all experienced something, and maybe it is psychological. Maybe it's something in the environment, in our food, in our water. Who knows? But there's something out there, and it's deeply, deeply terrifying, and it's changing lives for the worse. It's making people ill. I nearly succumbed to depression. I nearly succumbed to dependency. I nearly succumbed to suicide because of something that happened. And people say, well, that's just your head. You're not right in the head. Maybe that's true. But I think we need to wise up. We got to start thinking, what if? There's no harm being prepared, people.
Right. What harm is there into looking into it? You know, like asking the question. Well, thank you so much, Gavin, for being on. Any last thing really quick, because we got to end the show, that you want to get out, contact information or anything you want to get out to the audience?
You can contact me through the paranormalchronicles.com. You can email me there. You can get the magazine there, links to the book there. Other shows I've done in the past, you'll find the one I did with Jason a couple of years ago. Go through there. Keep in touch. Skeptic or believer, give me your ideas. That's the only way I'm going to learn. Jason, you are a remarkable man. Rob, Jamie, everyone, thank you so much. Those 3 hours whiz by. It's 7 in the morning here. Everyone, watch this show again to see if there was something in the window.
I started seeing some stuff, and some people were seeing some stuff above the lamp there. We got to go. We could talk about that, but some people were definitely commenting in the chat room tonight. They were seeing some stuff there, so I'm definitely going to want to go watch that back. Thanks again, Gavin. We got to talk. We got to get you back on the show soon. All right, guys, that's it for Paranormal Soup tonight. Check us out at Paranormal Soup or Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup on our Facebook page. We're on YouTube. You can find our archive there, and on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Go donate, subscribe, do what you can to help keep this great network going with all these great, wonderful hopes. Your donations, subscriptions are what do it. All right, next week, December 9th, Sunday, same bad time, same bad channel, we'll have Christopher Lee on. We're going to talk about reincarnation. We had his wife on before, and Debbie Anderson, psychic medium, we started talking about her husband, and I'm like, oh, we got to have him on as a guest to talk about reincarnation, so I'm excited to do that. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jamie, Rob, Jeff, and thank you, Gavin. Everybody have a great night. See you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Have a great night.